I was muted. I was muted. That's true. We're starting off great, gang. It's gonna be one of those days, right? It's gonna be one of those days. Uh just can you guys hear me now? Okay. Can you guys hear me now? I was on a roll, okay? How I was oh man, I was talking to you actually. Rabid. You could feel the energy just coming through the screen. I hope so. Hope so. Uh, hopefully everyone can hear me now and see me now. Hopefully everything's working now. But yes, Rabid Wombat, you are first. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the show. We got some shit to talk about today. I didn't think we would, honestly. I woke up, I was feeling meh. Okay? I was feeling like, oh man, I don't know what it was today. I just didn't feel good today. Okay? But I'll say this. Excuse me. I started browsing around, and there's quite a few things to talk about. Zephyr Hash for $3. Thank you for the super chat. Next time you will be first. I hope so. We're going to try something else, actually, and thank you for reminding me. There is this new feature on YouTube that I want to test. Okay? So we're going to make a super chat goal. And if we hit this goal, we will have a Halloween costume stream with a bunch of ladies. Okay, not just me, okay? But a bunch of ladies. So it's actually interesting. So if we can make this goal, and Cardis, thank you for the Prime sub. Really appreciate you. 15 months. Wow. We're going to start this goal. And if we can get this goal, we'll get this done. Sweet. Yes. Great. That's first, okay? That's first what we want to do. So I want to make sure to make some money tonight. That would be nice. It would be great. The second thing that we're going to do, Testy will be on. No, Testy. I mean, if Testy wants to be on, he can. I don't know if he has a costume, but no. I don't know. I don't know if there's. No, they're not sluts. I don't think. But we're gonna have Julie on, Sad Kit Kat. We're gonna have Fairy Queen. I've reached out to a few more. Okay. Hopefully we can get Harmony Ginger on here as well. Hopefully we can get Mooncake. We'll see though. I don't think any of those people are sluts, to be honest. But it's okay. Oh man, like I said, I didn't know if I was going to stream today. I was like, maybe I'll just put it off till tomorrow. But no, there are things we have to talk about. Because I saw some gameplay footage of Dragon Age Veilguard. When it came out, when the promos for it, at least, the trailers came out, I was like, okay, I'll withhold judgment, right? It's not my art direction style that I'm not a fan of the art direction style, right? But, you know, it could still be a great game. It could still be awesome. I liked the old Dragon Age Origins. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed 2 as well. A lot of people didn't like 2. I think Dragon Age Inquisition was too long, but otherwise an interesting game. But I think Origins is my favorite of the bunch. So then we got Veilguard coming out. And I was like, okay, well, I like Dragon Age. We'll see how they go. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, a lot of these promos and things, the actual gameplay have me worried. $2 from Zephyr Hash just says, "What are teal super chats? Does this count?" I think it's $5 or more. So I don't think it does, unfortunately. Though both of yours together should count. I guess we'll count it for the sake of the stream. So we're gonna go with 14 to 15. Econoboy, what up? Econoboy, you will like another subject that we're going to talk about today. We are going to talk about Trump's comments on the enemy within. So if you guys saw my show yesterday, you heard me at the end of the show talk about one of the concerns I have, one of the frustrations I have in the streaming world, about how we treat each other too often as enemy combatants, right? We as not just opponents politically, but just enemies in a very real sense. And then I came across a clip by Trump. And you know what? Let's just watch it, and then we will... That's how we're going to start, okay? We'll just watch this clip, and you guys can, we'll see what we see. Let me get it up. Why is that not... Hold on. Hold up. We have an issue. Properties. Why isn't this working? Cancel. Okay, give me a second. Device not connected or available. What do you mean it's not connected or available? Of course it's connected. There we go. Okay. Oh, man, I don't know what's going on with my computer, but here we go. Or it's not my computer, to be clear, it's my settings. Let's watch it and let's see what he has to say.
You talk about the enemy within. There's enemies, America's enemies outside. The enemy within is a pretty ominous phrase if you're talking about other Americans.
I think it's accurate. I mean, I think it's accurate.
Who are you talking about?
And,
the enemy?
I heard that. They say, oh, the enemy.
So, unfortunately, this clip isn't long enough, right? But further on in the interview... Oh, hold on. There's ads. Okay, further on in the interview, he specifies who he's talking about, okay? Because a lot of people have said, well, no, he's just talking about, like, gangs, illegal immigrants, things like that. But no, he does specify, right? He specifies what he means by enemy within. He talks about his political enemies, Pelosi, Schiff. He names these people, right? He talks about these people. So, again, if you were watching this yesterday... Oh, Mandalore, we're going to do call-ins in a second. Give me a second. But yeah, if you were watching my show yesterday, and you remember my little rant at the end about how we need to get away from this viewing each other as enemy combatants. This is a huge reason why I can never support Trump. And I don't think that anyone should. It's the same reason I don't support a bunch of leftists when they say that, Republicans are the enemies of the state. No, I think that's bullshit, right? Or the Supreme Court's the enemies of the state. No, that's bullshit. We need to stop. But Trump thinks the same thing, but about his political opponents. And you know how frustrated you get when you hear people talking about your political beliefs as in painting you as an enemy? That's how we feel, right? That's how the American people feel. It's why I can't support Trump. He feels that people are an enemy of the state. His political opponents are an enemy of the state. And I just think that we are never going to get past, we're never going to unite as a nation if we continually have people using that kind of language, using that kind of rhetoric to paint each other as enemies. And I oppose it wholeheartedly. But yeah. So that one's for you, Econoboy, okay? I thought you'd like that. I skipped ahead just to say that just for you. Another new account says, okay, Wick, how do you feel? I think I feel when I'm always being called a Nazi. Yeah, people shouldn't always call you a Nazi. When they do it, it's bad. Yes, that's true. Aspiring Devil says, Fox had to apologize for misleading editing the same conversation to protect Trump. MAGA has to be forced to acknowledge this rather than pretending Trump doesn't say or think these things. Yeah, if you've been paying attention at all, Trump absolutely does believe these things. He just does. He says it over and over again. Zephyrhash for $5. This is green FFS. Did a woman decide the color scheme? There's only 9 colors. Teal's made up a made-up woman word? Maybe. Possibly. Look, I just know what the goal says, and I know my settings that I put. I put $5 or more to count. Okay, we're at 1 of 15. We're actually at 2 of 15 because, again, Zephyrhash is saying his first super chats. I'm going to combine them to count for the $5. Okay. But let's talk. Let's do the call-ins now, I think. Mando, call in. We're summoning you, okay? Jump backstage, and we're going to talk about Dragon Age Veilguard, okay? Dragon Age Veilguard. And let me show you guys a screenshot here, okay? Let me show you guys a screenshot. Bloop, bloop, bloop. This is... I don't know how familiar you guys are with... I don't know how familiar you guys are with Dragon Age lore. But let's look at this screenshot and then let's talk about it. Okay? Oh, my settings, bros! Oh, I'm so sorry. Here. Let me get it down to size so you can actually see it here. Okay. We got nothing wrong with the images here. We got a little Canary. We got a human, and it looks like another Canary over here, though it's hard to tell. This is the actual dialogue in the game. Okay, I'm going to focus on this for a minute. Here, I'll move. Can I just move me so you guys can see it? Hold on. Nope. Here we go. Tash says, non-binary. I just said. And I'm going to use they instead of she from now on. It's actual dialogue in the game. Okay. Look, it's fine if the game is in a modern setting or if the game was about modern dynamics and things like that. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But this is Dragon Age. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Really, honestly, what? Why would you do this? It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit in the game. Anyway, we got some callers. Let's bring them in. It is a call-in show, believe it or not. Okay, callers. We got a lot of you. Hi.
Yeah, I jumped back here like impromptu, and I wasn't sure Mando was going to show up because apparently he's dodging Para.
Oh shit! It's my boy. What's up, Tessie?
Yo, what's up? Wait, I'll kick it off because I'm going to take more the affirmative position of.
Well, you don't even know what my position is.
Well, affirmative in the sense that like.
Hold on. Just to be clear, is everyone here to talk about the Dragon Age shit?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Dragon Age. I've never played any of the games. But I'm gonna say.
Well, get the fuck out!
I'm gonna say.
I'm kidding.
Who gives a fuck? Like, oh, you can be non-binary. Oh no, the game has gone woke. You're ruining it. This isn't accurate to the plot. It's a fucking fantasy.
Hold on.
It's a fantasy game. Doesn't matter.
Hold on. If I may, this isn't you selecting your character. The character Tash in the game, you don't have a choice in this. Is non-binary. That's the dialogue. That's the plot. The character development.
Well, if it was the playable character, then I could understand. Right, I could understand the affirmative, but this isn't a playable character. It's a Kunari character, and Kunari have a specific culture that has specific concepts, and the concept of sexuality and gender do not exist inside Kunari culture. So a Kunari demanding that humans and non-Kunari address her in a way that is not accurate to Kunari culture, to me, and I'm not saying this is something that's woke. I'm saying that it's something that clearly breaks immersion, right? Whoever made this decision doesn't really know about Kunari culture and how they interact what their concepts of sexuality and gender actually are. Because the Canary would never refer to themselves as she, they, he, etc., right? Maybe to humans. So, like for me, it's just not accurate. It would be more acceptable and more accurate.
Wait. Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
so,
Go
so-
ahead.
so- I was gonna say, so the Canary, they would never refer to themselves as she or he, is what you're saying?
They would in the context of this is what this is necessarily what a human, right? This is what a human would expect. Because
Right.
Even Iron Bull says this in the Inquisition. When you
So-
basically ask Iron Bull what his sexuality is, because he's clearly interested in men and women, or what the fuck ever, right? And then you can approach him based on his relationship with Dory. And his response is like, Canary don't give a shit about any of that.
So
Like,
it sounds
gay
like,
and like
yeah, it sounds like their
lesbians
entire race is non-binary then. So this actually fits perfectly canonically. I think
this is true. I agree. Hold on, let me cook. I agree that Kunari do fit in the non-binary category, but a Kunari would never demand that you refer to them as being non-binary because those are concepts that don't exist in their culture. What would be accurate is for Tosh to say, well, I mean, Kunari don't believe in concepts like non-binary and gay. We don't care about sexuality. We don't care about gender. You could call me whatever you want because that's exactly what Iron Bull did. It's like these are human problems. They're not Kunari problems. These are human concepts, not Kunari concepts.
So
Does that make sense?
it does. And I'll let you guys nerd out, but I'm just looking here at the Dragon Age wiki, and it says the Kunari have a concept known as a Quinn Athlock, which means born as one gender but living as another.
Okay.
Yes.
Before we
So I'm-
get, hold on, all of you. I sense this coming into a nerd fight,
I'm
which
so
I
out of my
get,
element, dude.
I
gotta
understand,
listen.
but we're not here to talk about specifically Kunari culture and argue about that. We're here to talk about this kind
woke?
of
This is all bullshit.
See, I can't do that because I'm not going to criticize something based on its wokeness or unwokeness. I feel like that's lazy. That's as lazy as what the acolyte writers.
Yeah, that's what
Come
the
on,
quartering
dude.
does.
So you
Yeah,
shoehorn
look,
something.
I
hold on,
think this
hold on,
is
hold on,
super
hold on, hold on, hold on, one at a time. Zetsway, then Parallax. Go ahead.
Sure, I sent you a picture that kind of encapsulates it. It goes, you could technically write into Kunari culture that goes, they're really interested in like metal things that have 4 wheels and move, and so therefore you can now introduce the 2021 BMW 5 Series 530i with options, and it perfectly works. I mean, come on, it's in the wiki that they had interest in like it goes, well, no, there's a point where it goes, you're shoehorning it. That they did in Inquisition, they actually did a lot of LGBT, I'd say woke things,
Yeah,
and
they
they did
did.
it very well.
Yeah, they did.
That
They did it very well.
that it wasn't shoehorned in. But in the same sense, where if you go like they had like what is it, top surgery scars, you're like, I'm sorry, they have blood magic. Why would they have that? Well, they have it in the United States, so that's why. It'd be like you're saying things that you would say in the real world in the game, and that's the immersion break. You could have
Yes,
you could have
yes.
they, them people.
Yeah.
None of those things are banned. But if you have someone say, hey guys, let's have a pronoun circle, like I did in college back in my University of Kuhn school in our gender studies course. I mean, Kunari gender studies courses, like that you're shoehorning it in the same sense you could technically have a vehicle type thing, but if you just said like fuck it, they do like they're great, they like optional heated seating, why not? You're like, fuck it, that's the immersion break. The immersion break is the shoehorning. You can put the shoe on, just don't do that.
It's
Yeah.
I don't agree that it's shoehorned, and the reason being that I don't know where the idea that the Kunari have no concept of gender or it's not important to them comes from. This is actually not true. The Kunari specifically believe your gender is very important in the role you play. For example, women cannot be warriors in Kunari culture. So if you are born a woman and born into the role of being a warrior, your identity as a woman is rejected and you are treated as a man. And they do have genders. I have no clue where this comes
just
from.
like
The idea
Milan.
that they don't have
Specifically
genders.
written in their culture that
I
they
didn't say
like
that they
four-wheeled
don't. I
objects
didn't
from
say
the
that they don't.
BMW series.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I didn't make a statement about Kunari not having genders. What I said was their concept of genders and sexuality is not human. They don't have a concept of sexuality and gender
This
as
isn't
the
a
same
sexual
thing as
statement. Quit bringing
humans.
up sexuality.
Yeah, there's male.
What
There's
do you mean?
females and males. So non-binary.
This has nothing to do with sexuality. This is non-binary.
When we're
gender
talking
identity.
about it is. It
It's
totally
not.
has
It's not.
something
No
to
one's
do
gay or
with it because
straight.
the
It's
concept, it doesn't matter. The concept in which the conversation came up in Inquisition, which is what we were referring to in our conversation in Discord, was about what Iron Bull was saying, and his response was based on having his sexuality question, not his
Right.
gender.
But we're not talking about Iron Bull in this conversation. You brought that up out of thin air. If we're going to talk about other characters, we can
No,
do
you
that.
brought up Iron Bull.
Not in this
Okay,
conversation.
Not in this
okay, yes, they were arguing all fucking day in my Discord about this, okay? There's a lot coming into this. But I just want to I want to hit on this because I think it's important. The distinction here is important because I think Zetsway said it very well. It's okay to have these kinds of concepts in a game, right? Where you can explore within the bounds of the game's world, right?
Yes.
Different concepts, whether that be gender, sexuality, whether that be wokeness, whether that be even darker themes such as slavery and things like that, right?
Yeah.
That's entirely acceptable. It's entirely fine. But what comes off to gamers and to people who are familiar with the lore of the game as frustrating is when it's obvious that the creators are trying to take real world concepts and politics and just
shoehorn
put it
There are
in,
ways,
just
there are ways
force
to do
it in.
because-
Show me when you find someone who knows this game and we can talk to him.
There are ways to do it because in Inquisition, you had those concepts and no one complained about it. No one. It wasn't an issue.
I don't know if no one. I mean, I don't think you can always find some random person, but widely, it was one game of the year. It wasn't.
It one game of the year. Yeah.
Like we're seeing one line of dialogue. What if this is actually part of a plot point?
Do you guys want more?
No, it is. It is.
I think it is.
No, it is.
Yeah, so
it is. Tosh is an important player
therefore,
companion. Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll have the option probably to just misgender them, and then you'll see what the consequences of that are, and that'll play out, and everybody will have fun.
Yeah, the broader quest is them against the Talvashoth Donaldo Trumpo, and you're like totally not guys. You're like
because those are
again,
even close to the same.
No, either way, I'm saying that the way you do it changes how you can have. They had trans characters in Inquisition. They had LGBT characters of all types in Inquisition. But I'm saying that, and again, we don't know because the game hasn't.
It felt
the
authentic.
reviews. The reviews have been saying there's been more things that go. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
There could be, but you're right. If this is literally the only thing that goes, there's nothing else. It's just this one line of dialogue, and all the reviewers are all blowing out of proportion. We find out, then I would actually go, you're right. Guess it wasn't so bad. It was just one line of dialogue. Who cares? Well, however, from the things people are saying that no, they removed anything that could be inoffensive, and they're adding this in, and it's okay, that hopefully, fingers crossed, there's just one, I guess.
Yeah.
To be clear, it's almost definitely going to be more than one line of dialogue because this is a big part of Tosh's storyline. But if it's limited to this one character and their experience, are we really that pressed about it?
How important is this character in the game?
Right? She's a companion. She's a companion side. She's a companion / side character.
Yeah.
So I assume that this
I'm
will
not
be
pressed about it. I just gave
probably
my
a significant portion of her.
For me,
okay, I don't get
for
this
me,
thing,
it's not a big deal, but I think it's totally reasonable for me and other people like me, especially if you can give your opinion in an authentic way. My opinion is genuine. It's not some shit I fucking saw on Twitter. Right.
I don't get the whole you join a conversation about something and then you're like, why are we having this conversation? Motherfucker, why'd you join? It's
Nobody
people
said
arguing
that.
about pizza.
Nobody said
no,
that.
You're saying why does this matter?
No, I'm not.
Then why
No, he's saying,
to be fair, I said that.
People, it's totally, but I'm going to defend Parallax in this because there are individuals out here who are blowing the shit out of proportion. And I will say, like, from someone who consumes content, I think, in a very weird way, like, immersion is really, really important to me. Really important. Like, I really enjoy stories, characters, right? Especially like meaningful stories about character development, et cetera, right? I really enjoy that. And Dragon Age is something that represents that for me because the studio was at one time known for being the greatest storytellers in the RPG genre. That's what they were known for. The narrative driven stories about great characters where you have to make meaningful decisions in regards to the narrative, and that narrative might change. And it might actually affect the characters that you spend all of this time building some sort of relationship with, right? So that's where I'm coming from. Like,
Right, but all of that could still remain true,
deal.
right?
It's not a big deal to me personally, right? That she talks about being non-binary. I'm just telling you that to me, it breaks the immersion because I care about the world. Because I know a Canary wouldn't care about being non-binary. Canary would not demand that someone else calls them non-binary. So it's something that breaks the lore for me, especially in Dragon Age.
I just need to show.
Like, this is status. This is some fantasy world where
Okay.
the term non-binary doesn't even exist.
I just need to show the
does now.
screenshot.
It does
Watch
now.
the screen for the screenshot. Just this is. I'm half expecting this is a troll. Like someone just faked this or photoshopped this screenshot. I need you to look at this. I need to establishes transgender identity and unlocks new dialogue options in future conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's that's
I
correct.
think
You can time out.
I think that's for
You
the
can
playable
be,
character. I don't think
you
that's
know,
for the.
Mando,
Go ahead.
can anyone else go?
I'm sorry.
You can be a transgender character. Of course, it gives
Yeah.
you that dialogue option choice.
Yeah. So I think
That's
that screenshot is out of context.
Why are you
That has
acting like
nothing
that's
to do
a
with
big
Tosh.
deal? Of course, you were able
Yeah.
to.
I think
why
it's
are you acting
funny.
like that's a big deal?
I think it's funny. I think it's amusing.
I mean, it's not a big deal, but we can clearly point out that, like, hey, the concept of being transgender probably isn't actually a thing in Thetis. Like, it is.
Cyberpunk.
It is.
That's so absurd.
Hold on. There is just like the Canary can be considered by non-binary based on their beliefs of gender and sexuality, et cetera, and the things that the Canary tell you in the game, right? It's clear that we can relate how they live their lives and their beliefs to modern day concepts like being non-binary, right? Obviously, you could do that, but Iron Bull doesn't say he's non-binary. I think that is the point that people are trying to make. These concepts and these terms that are being used in the game shouldn't exist in Thetis. It's a fantasy game.
Wait, why do you say shit like that?
Can exist.
Every word in every concept.
The concepts
God
can exist.
damn it! I swear I'm
saying-
speaking.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Every one of these concepts and every one of these words can absolutely exist in Thetis. You want to know why? Because they're all born out of a real world perspective where they're trying to write a fantasy world. So the idea that these concepts must remain unique to the outside world and can't be introduced to Thetis is fucking ridiculous.
You would think
Thetis
hold
isn't
on.
real.
You would agree. Parallax. Hold on, just real quick.
I
Parallax.
think
Parallax.
concepts-
Stop. Parallax.
Okay.
You would agree that there are some concepts that exist in the real world that would not translate well into the video game,
Yeah,
correct?
it'd probably be weird if there were cars like Zetsui was
Or
implying. in a-
Republicans.
Why not?
Or
Yeah.
Democrats.
Yeah, that would probably be weird,
or
for sure.
all these things, right? There's a host of concepts that would be appropriate to discuss in a real world setting, that would be
Yeah.
immersion breaking to discuss in a fantasy setting. The
Yeah,
argument
and
being
one's
put
one's
forth,
My
gender
issue is
identity
not the
wouldn't be
concept.
one.
the arguing being
Well,
put
my issue
forth,
isn't that these concepts
wouldn't be gender
exist in
identity.
Thetis. Yeah, my issue was never that these concepts exist. I already said they already existed. They already did. They existed. All of these concepts involving sexuality and gender have already existed from Origins.
Yeah,
From
and
Dragon Age
just
Origins,
because
these
we have
concepts. Hold on.
just
let me-
because
let
we've
me cook, let
introduced
me
a
cook.
term to describe it appropriately doesn't
The
change
term,
like
the term
anything.
doesn't
The term
exist.
is fine.
The
It's
term only exists in
yeah,
modern
you're
day.
right.
The term doesn't exist in betas. The concept exists, but they don't. You know what I mean? Like,
So they
why
should
would
just call it
someone?
something else.
Yeah, they should have called magic something else, and fire something else, and air something else, and
It'd be
water
saying
something
that
else.
if they wanted to have someone who's disabled, and all of them are just in like modern wheelchairs, and you're like, okay, really, you're telling me that in that area they
That's
don't
not
have
the
a
same.
concept?
That's retarded.
You're
Can I-
using the.
I wanna-
I'm not saying the
Sorry.
So
concept.
fucking
It's-
I want
smooth
to push
brain.
saying the
forward
term.
a little bit.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just gonna say, because a lot of fantasy, more so sci-fi, but like or fantasy as well, there will be parallels to like real world concepts. I feel like it's part of story building, of like there will be certain tropes and certain things that you kind of expect to see, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, how does this significantly? Because you're saying it'll take you out of the story. Like I can maybe understand that if there weren't like parallels to other things that it follows in the real world. So like,
Well,
what
it takes
makes
me.
one thing unique?
Because
Well,
I'll
it-
answer this
it's-
question. I'll answer this
Go ahead,
question.
go ahead.
Because as soon as you realize that you are being preached to, that for me, I
preach-
stopped listening. Like
Are they trying to
there's
train
a
you
book
with?
series that did this. There's a book series.
Hold on.
Give me a second, right? Let me cook. Have you guys ever read the Sword of Truth series?
Yes.
Yes.
Nope.
Well, it's a fantasy series, but it becomes very, very clear, I think, by book 2, 3, 4, something like that.
Probably
the dude
book three. Probably
who
book
wrote
three.
it really hates communism. Like,
Yeah.
hates it. It's very clear. And it becomes very clear that the dude wrote this story to take shots at communism. And he has whole chapters where he's taking shots at communism. And, okay, I actually agree with him. Okay? I agree with his points. But I'm not reading the story for an essay on why communism sucks. I don't give a shit.
I don't give a shit about his fucking morals
Yes,
on communism.
exactly. I want a good story. I want an interesting plot. I want interesting characters. I want interesting design.
Wait, does
And
the
when an
story
author
shit on communism?
and when an author decides to put all his like a significant portion of his effort, time, and attention to building the story to preach at you, it becomes off-putting. And again, if a game is especially of an established franchise like Dragon Age, if they made Dragon Age the transgender identity story, it would be weird and off-putting. If they made Dragon Age, if they made Dragon Age the anti-communism story, it would be weird and off-putting because that's not what Dragon Age is about.
Dragon Age, to my understanding, is extremely progressive. But what you're saying, I feel, would hold true if it, like, let's say they did this for like Halo.
Well, the
or something.
progressive aspect.
Master Chief is like, I'm non-binary now. Like, I kind of would understand people flipping their shit a little bit, just because it does feel very shoehorned in. But I feel like there's some basis. There's a precedence that's been set. It's a very progressive game to begin with.
I mean, there are progressive aspects of the game, but that's not the focus. The focus is telling a dark fantasy-style story that's dark and gritty.
Yeah, and there's nothing to say that this will be the focus.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm not saying that. I'm not.
That was more so to Wick because he's saying that.
Okay.
Look, if you like being
I'm gonna give you
preached
another
to,
example of it.
and I see some people
stop. It's not preaching.
Yes,
this
it is.
Crazy. No, it isn't. Having a character who goes through an actual identity like crisis in their
and they're transgender, by the way. Every 5 dialogue lines, I'm transgender. Did I remind you I'm transgender? Hey, while we're fighting this dragon, let me pause the combat to just talk about how we're transgender. Right? You see how that can be an issue?
You're being so fucking disingenuous.
Hold on, wait. I gotta remind you that I'm transgender. We gotta remind you in the dialogue.
You know that's what's happening in the game, though.
Hold on. No, we gotta stop. We gotta stop because I have to remind you that I'm
transgender. Disingenuous fuck.
I'm just saying.
Oh, Para's like lemon drab right now.
You're being an absolute disingenuous shit right now.
I don't think he is.
He is. Great, Mando. Let me speak. Shut up. God, every time someone speaks.
You were speaking.
Fucking A. You have no idea that this game is preachy. You've seen a line. You're making
no, I've seen more than that. I've seen dialogue options and things like that.
You've seen that your character can also be transgender. Sure. Cool. Normal. Moving on.
So let me ask.
That's all you've seen. You haven't seen any preaching.
So how do you know? Look, this is the thing, right? I have
When
seen.
it preaches, I'll agree with you. If it preaches.
Okay. I'm saying
Can I
based
ask
on
you a question,
based
Bart?
on the screenshots I've seen, based on the dialogue interactions that I've seen, based on, and I'm trying to find this, the there's a few clips of various cutscenes or various dialogues between the characters. Based on all that, the dialogue seems really bad. First of all,
Yeah.
okay, and second of all, it does seem preachy to me. Now, you might like being preached to. Cool. Right?
No, you've just presented
Everyone's
no
a
evidence
story.
that it's preachy.
What do you mean, no evidence?
Show me the evidence.
I just did. You said it's only
No,
two
you
lines.
didn't.
No, you
And here's the
didn't.
thing:
Those two
as many as I
screenshots do not-
present, you're gonna be
those
like,
two
"Oh, it's
screenshots-
only this.
that's
It's only
not
that."
true.
We
That's
don't
not
have
true.
time in the day to go
That's not
through the
true.
fucking whole
You
game. It's
gave
probably
me
a 40
two
hour game.
screenshots. You gave me two screenshots, and neither of them is preachy.
Yeah,
That's all you've shown.
it feels premature to say in isolation because it's a very specific thing. If these are the only screenshots that are coming out, it might come off as preachy, right? Because that's the only thing you're seeing, and it feels like it's by design. If these are the things that people are seeing to kind of create this outrage, so
I think it's reasonable to say that Wick is anyone who thinks that it's preachy based on these limited screenshots that we've seen. Like,
Open the gun.
it's reasonable for them to have that opinion. It's also reasonable to say, well, you don't.
No, it's not.
Really know.
No, it's
Hold
not.
on.
No, it's
It
not.
is.
That's
It
not
is.
reasonable.
It
There's
is.
nothing preachy in those
If
two
you let
screenshots. Show me
me
the preaching.
finish, if you
Then
let me
stop and
finish,
show
if
me
you
the
let me
preaching.
finish,
Just show
if
me
you
the
let me
preaching.
finish, I would have also
Show me the
said
preaching.
that I would have also said that it's very reasonable for Para to have the opinion that that's just not enough to come to that conclusion.
But there's
Both
no
can be right.
preaching. There's not an ounce of it.
How do you?
have
You're
no
saying
idea.
this with
You
such
literally have no
confidence.
idea.
In those two screenshots, yes, I am.
Yeah.
Those two screenshots involve no preaching.
Okay.
I can
There's
read.
nothing.
It's
It's
not
like-
hard.
Okay.
It's like
Apparently, it's hard for you to comprehend what you're reading because, yes, this screenshot is absolutely preaching to you. When she
it's
says,
not.
stop
No, it's
it,
not.
non-binary,
She's pushing
I
her
just
identity.
said, and I'm going to use they instead of she from now on. Yes, that's preaching.
Yeah, oh my God, how dare she describe herself?
That's preachy. You could say it's
cannot
good that
believe
she's
she would
preachy in that
describe
case.
herself.
But again,
Yeah, she's
based on the
definitely a bitch.
concept, she just said it, so she is
Oh
repeating
yeah, she
herself.
described herself. She's horrible.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh
she
my
did it
God.
really- she
Talk
did it
about
really
being
horrible.
disingenuous.
Yeah.
Talk about
She
being
did it very
disingenuous.
horrible.
You
She
absolutely
describes
are.
herself.
You
no, I'm not. She
absolutely
literally
are.
describes herself, and you're acting like she's going.
She's
"Well, you
describing
have to
herself
start-
for the second
have
time.
to-
You understand
have
how
to
I could
accept-
describe?
you have
Here,
to
I'm just
accept every
describing you,
single
you
person's
little
specific
fucking
identity.
disingenuous
That's
little
not what happened.
pissant. That's all I'm doing. I'm not insulting you. I'm just describing you, you pissant. That's
No,
just a
it would be
description,
describing
pissant.
oneself.
I'm just describing you,
oneself versus
pissant.
describing someone else.
You're
is
just,
really
I'm just
different.
describing you. That's all I'm doing, pissant.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
not
just
being-
describing.
she's
That's
not being
all. That's
preaching.
it.
She's not. Yeah, okay.
You
can do it if
understand how
want, but
people
she's
can do
not being
different
preachy.
things at different times, right?
She's not
Okay,
preaching. She's literally just
provide-
telling you what her identity is. Nothing
Can I
more.
provide-
And if you take
can
that
I
as
provide-
preaching, you're softer than any non-binary
Oh
person
my
on the
God,
planet.
you're such jello.
soft. I
You're
don't
such
care.
jello. You have no consistency. You have no spine, right?
I did
You
just
can
say it with a
simply
spine. I
say
said you're softer
you
than
can
baby
simply
shit with a
say
spine.
you can simply. Yeah, I know, but you're just wrong, and no one should take you
I'm
seriously
not.
anymore.
I'm not. It's so soft.
absolutely, absolutely.
It's so
yes,
soft. This
when you
reaction is
have
soft.
Dragon Age characters
both opinions
starting
are valid.
preaching, right? Preaching about their gender identities for the
Preaching.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yes, it's bad. It's wrong.
Just describing your
Well, it's
identity
not
is not
wrong.
preaching, Wick.
It's just bad.
Describing-
It's bad
describing
dialogue.
your identity
It's
is
bad.
preaching.
Describing your
And it
identity
It's a
never will
bad
be.
is not-
story.
Yeah,
Describing your identity isn't
is not
preaching.
preachy, but it definitely like I don't know, man.
Yeah,
I think
it's-
both perspectives are accurate.
That's the
If
centrist
someone-
position,
if-
Mando.
if
You gotta
someone-
dig in.
Well, I mean, I am a centrist, right? I try and understand both sides, both perspectives, right? I want to understand more.
Yeah.
But like, I can understand that someone who's a longtime Dragon Age fan, which Wick is, and me and Wick have had this discussion about Dragon Age before all of this. He's clearly stated that the game just doesn't have that Dragon Age feel. When the
Even
trailer
the art
dropped, he
direction
said
is
nothing,
not Dragon
nothing
Age,
had
right?
to do with anything being woke.
It's
or
very
preachy.
bright.
I'm just saying, right?
There's a lot
so
of
like,
bloom.
if
It's
someone,
a lot brighter. I don't. Yeah.
yeah,
That I agree
like
with.
I don't believe that it's unreasonable for someone to be like, I'm not interested in playing this fucking game because it's got this shit in it. And someone else hearing that and saying, well, that's pretty unreasonable for you to have that opinion. I think both stances are reasonable, right?
Yeah.
It's
Again,
totally stupid for someone to be like, you shouldn't have that opinion. It's not preachy.
No,
Well,
it
is
is.
to me.
well, no,
Oh,
it
is to
isn't
Wick.
It is.
It
It
just
is.
isn't
It is to
preachy.
Wick.
It's just not
Right?
preachy.
No, forget the preachy thing for half a second. Just
Go ahead.
like Mando, the reason I would disagree with you, and I guess disagreeing with Wick by extension, is that if this is like the one thing you're like, I don't like that that's in there. You're like, they're all the, but it's like you're not considering like game mechanics. You're not considering like the rest of the. You're not considering
I would
any
agree
other
with you.
aspects except for
I
this
would
one
agree.
little tiny fucking sliver of thing that you're
We're
like.
talking
I
about the
care
story,
about
not
this
the
thing,
gameplay.
and this is
The gameplay could be
deal.
great. The
But
gameplay
I
could
would
be
agree with you on that.
We
sugar.
have no
I
idea
totally agree.
I
how
don't
much
know.
an impact this has on the story.
No,
either.
yeah.
We know it's an aspect
Well,
of the story, but we don't know if it's like.
well, it's an aspect. It's an aspect of the story, which is an aspect of the game because it's an RPG, which is narrative driven by the story. So it does there's layers,
It has,
right?
yes, it has an impact, but I guess I'm saying that, especially because this is one of those games
My
where,
criticism has nothing to do with any of this.
yeah, I think
My
you've been
criticism of the
probably the
game,
most
and
hard-headed.
I think
Yeah.
Wick's original criticism had nothing to do with any of this. This is just another thing to add on to the pile.
Wick, Amanda,
On
can I ask
why-
you something?
Go ahead.
So you guys both have played Inquisition, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Thoughts
Oh,
on
yeah.
Krem? Krem's transgender. Denny's
Yeah.
addressed.
He's
Thoughts
fine.
on it?
Yep.
No, it's fine. It
I don't
wasn't a
have-
big deal in the
he's a great
story.
Two thumbs up. No issues.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great fucking character.
We find out
Great
the identity,
character.
all of it, none of it's done preachy. Do we agree on that?
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the point. You go, it's not just saying your identity because Krem did it and he did it
Yeah.
perfect. He did it fine. It's clear you can put the fucking
Dude,
shoe
one
on.
of the
if
most
it's preachy,
interesting
you'll be
story
right.
arcs. One of the most interesting story arcs in Dragon Age Inquisition, I feel, is Dorian's story and him basically having to overcome the fear of his father because of Dorian's sexuality. And his relationship with Iron Bull kind of gives him the confidence in more than one way, to basically be proud of who he is instead of feeling shameful about who he is because of his father's perception. That is literally one of the coolest story arcs in Inquisition, other than the biggest story arc, which is Solus, right? Elves of the Master Race. I don't give a fuck what anyone says.
Elves.
Dorian's
no.
fucking awesome.
He
Just
is.
gonna say it.
But
He is.
regardless,
Dorian
Dorian.
is awesome. Dorian
regardless,
is awesome.
the
So is Iron
point
Bull.
here, and the point I'm trying to get across, right, which some of us apparently can't understand, is that there are ways to do, like, there is nothing wrong with having a discussion on gender in a game. There's nothing wrong with having a storyline on almost anything that I can think of. But how you do it matters, and when you do it in such a way that it, again, when Donaldo Trumpo, the orange big bad boss, comes in, right, to destroy Totally Not America, right, it becomes like, okay, what are we doing here, right? I stop
nobody
thinking about the
disagrees with that, I
story,
don't think.
I stop having my mind in the world, and I start thinking about politics in a way that I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't think
That's
anybody
it.
here disagrees with that.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's just
that-
about
Yeah. That's
Really,
pretty
it's
much
the
my
actual
position.
content,
It's all
just
about
how you
immersion.
approach it. You mentioned
Yeah,
that sort
it's
of
all
like
about
thing for the
immersion.
fascist thing, right? So wasn't like I haven't played Disco Elysium, but I've heard great things. But the guy who made it is a communist who like thanked Karl Marx at his like acceptance thing. But I've heard like a lot of people like it, that you can
It's a good
even
game.
introduce your concepts without being like, again, immersion proof.
Heavy-handed.
And that's the whole point.
Like
Yeah, that's it. It's
someone
just a level-
someone in Cyberpunk.
All right, can I? I'm
Referring
sorry,
to
Mando.
themselves
Can
as,
I
like-
ask Wick a question here? This is important based
Yeah,
on
yeah.
what you
Go
just
ahead.
said.
Go ahead.
Wick, would
Okay.
you be okay with the middle ground that her saying non-binary and specifically the words I just said, which is, as you've inferred, a correction, if that turns out to be true,
Mm-hmm.
if she's reiterating, doubling down, would you infer that, or would you be okay with the idea that that is potentially heavy-handed while still not being preachy?
If this is the only thing in the game where this happens, fair enough.
yeah, if
but
she corrects him
based-
once,
Yes.
yeah,
But
okay.
based on some of the other dialogue I have seen, based
And the reviews.
on some of the other images I have seen, and some clips I have seen, I suspect, and I think I have good reason to suspect, that this is not the only time something like this happens.
Well, to be clear,
mean,
it
when-
should come up multiple times if she's going through an identity thing, right? Like anytime she's a player in the story and her identity is assumed, I assume she'll say something about it. However, one would hope that the writing is deeper than just continuously going, "It's ma'am." You know what I mean? Like I'm with you. I'm with you. I really am.
Depending on how it's approached.
If they start
Right.
doing a pronoun circle, then that would be heavy-handed. If there's just some other time where it comes up, part of the story, fine. Like I said, Krem was transgender, and he was brought up in plenty of ways that wasn't preached and didn't like involve anything that goes, "Oh, clearly I know what you're referencing in real life." You go, or you're doing like same thing like with the top surgery scars. You go,
Like if
"I'm sorry,
suddenly
that's the thing we
she's
have in
using
our world, not
the
theirs.
right
Why
type
are
of
you
bathroom,
doing
like, or if suddenly she's like,
or they
I'm
start-
going to
or she
start
goes,
using
I
this
wanna compete in
bathroom.
sports. She goes like, actually, I really want to be an athlete now. And like, if that is a part of the story, that would be heavy-handed. Goes, I'm sorry, really? And she's a swimmer, and you're like, motherfucker, like.
Yeah,
well,
no,
no,
I agree. Like there would be heavy-handed ways. What I'm saying is simply there's not evidence that that's there yet. I have not been presented with evidence that this is preachy or super
I wish I still had
heavy-handed.
those clips
I
I
do
saw
think-
over the weekend. I really did.
I would like to
because
see them as well. So if
yeah.
you run across them,
I've been
do think-
googling them to
I
try
do
to find
think
it. They were on
I've
X, so who
probably-
knows?
I do think I've probably overlooked the "I just said" until just now, until you brought that up.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like she's doubling down on a correction she's already
Yes.
made with that in there. However, I can see a world where the writing would be better than that. You know, it basically boils down to the writing quality, though, right? Like,
Or
if
it
this is
But
this
that's-
is
but
like
that's the-
I mean,
obviously,
yes.
it's
literally the
obviously
criticism.
going to be it's obviously going to be an important part of her character identity, and so when
But
her character
that's-
identity is part of
oh.
the story,
Yeah,
I
but that's
suspect
the-
it will be brought up. But hopefully, they're again they're more adept.
But
at
as I
handling
said,
it.
hold on,
Tara,
just real
that
quick.
is
I'll let
the
you go, Modan.
major
Mando, I'll let
criticism
you
of
go in
the
a second.
writing
Mando, I'll
Okay,
let you go in a
no.
second. I'll let you go in a second.
It is.
But
Not a good
this is the thing. Yes, a good writer could do it well, and it could be interesting. But based on the other dialogue I have seen in the game, the writing that I have seen is not good. It is bad.
But I haven't seen that. You just keep saying it. And
Okay,
you
well,
keep
you
giving
can say I'm
examples.
lying, if whatever, right? And I'll try to find you the clips so you can look.
I'm
for
not saying you're
yourself,
lying. I just
right?
need to see it before I can accept
Fair
it.
enough,
Right?
but like there is this
Hey,
this conversation between these three characters. I don't know their names, right? And it's basically like they're talking to children, and the conversation is about how one of them doesn't really like talking about dragons, but they should like talking about dragons because the other person, it felt like an adult trying to explain to children how to share their toys. That's what it felt like.
Hey, sorry. I feel
Go
like I've
ahead.
taken enough space here, so I'll say really quick. On YouTube, if people sub to Teal Super Chats, Wick will do a Halloween costume stream. He's got an hour and 15 minutes left for that goal, so give him money. Also, fuck Dragon Age, and that game sucks.
I knew it was
All right,
coming.
thanks for having
I
me.
knew it was coming.
Okay. But yes, just before we let the other people in that are here, absolutely, we are on YouTube. We're doing a super chat goal thing. If I can get 15 $5 super chats, just $5 on Halloween, we're gonna have a great costume stream. Fairy Queen will be there. We're gonna get other people like Julie, Sad Kit Cat will be there.
Wick's gonna dress up like a hot dog.
Yeah, are you gonna dress up as a non-gnome for
A
once?
non-gnome? I don't know, a halfling maybe, or something like that.
Dude, you would be a really good Yoda.
You look like Gandalf the Gay.
But also, actually,
Oh wow.
what Wick was just saying though, with that conversation we said like they're talking like they're children. They've actually done that exact type of conversation very well in Mass Effect between
Yeah.
the Quinar, like between Miranda and
Asari.
Jack, and but yeah,
Yeah.
between oh my god, Legion and Tali. Yeah, like they had conversations like where there's a conflict in which they are like at each other's throats, and the person comes in and goes like, "You both need to fucking stop." You can handle it properly. All of these things
Yeah.
are the concepts are fine. How you handle, you can talk to people like you're trying to resolve a conflict, or you can talk to them like they're children, going, "Wouldn't it be nice if you did this? How about you? Wouldn't that also be nice?" You're like, that's the part that's annoying.
Yeah.
And again,
Like
I'll see if I can find the clip.
You don't
Hold
have
on.
full evidence. It goes, I'm fingers crossed. I'm fingers crossed that these are like, you're right. These are totally clipped out. It's actually great, and we're all gonna be eating crow, and we're just be like, man, what a great game it was. And Parallax,
I don't know,
fucking
bro.
told you all of you. We're like, you got to.
Well,
I don't know. I
actually,
don't
if
trust
no one
these
would
fucking
call in, I had
reviewers,
these two competing reviews. One titled Dragon Age, the Veilguard review, the best BioWare game I've ever played, and the other,
Crazy.
yeah,
That's a crazy statement.
and the other titled Dragon Age, the Veilguard is really bad. So I was going to
Yeah.
read them both on screen, but
We all agree we're still buying the game, right? 'Cause
no, I'm not.
Really?
I'm not.
You're
I'm not
I'm
buying
kidding.
not.
No
it.
questions
I'm
asked.
not
I don't
buying
care.
it. It's just something that has not interested me. Like the
There's-
combat is not something that interests me. The
There's apparently
story doesn't
beats
feel
and I
like
need to know. There'd be conclusionary things that I want to know. I swear,
Yeah.
but again, they could literally have BMWs in it, and I would still buy it. So it's not even like,
Yeah.
like
I hated
Like,
that
it's like-
example earlier, Zetsui. It triggered me so bad, just so you know.
why?
I know we
I
noticed.
hated it when you were like the four wheels and the metal. I was like, oh, I fucking hate this. I
Why
was
not?
so
Like,
mad.
What's wrong with it though? Like, so because you
Yeah.
can introduce, like, what is it, Avatar: Last Airbender? They brought
hold
in
on,
cars. You
just to
can
be clear.
introduce vehicles.
I know what you're saying. It's just like the two are just very different things. Like I understand you're saying like bringing a thing that exists in the modernity of the real world into this fantasy world is what breaks your immersion, right? I don't think that gender identity, and I know for a fact it's historically true that gender identity is not just a modern thing, and neither is non-binary identity. These
That's
aren't
not
just
my
modern
position.
things. So, hold on.
Yeah.
Either way, they would like if in theory, when we look at fantasy worlds, these worlds tend to be based on like medieval culture and a spin-off of that and medieval mythology.
Yeah.
And it would very simply be an extension of that. Yeah, these identities existed then as well, so they would exist in that world. It's not that crazy. The cars,
No,
I
however,
think the concept. I think
you could
the concept
technically introduce guns right now, like that. You could say like they did the repeating crossbow. They could technically bring in modernity. It's not about bringing in modern concepts. It's purely the methodology. Again, trans people already existed in the game, and we all three of us agreed we like Krem, and we don't have any issue with how Krem was introduced. So it can't be like, oh, we have a problem with modernity being brought in. It's purely the methodology. The same thing with like cars, where like they gave an example of why cars were suddenly in Avatar. You go, same thing with electricity. That goes, people began mastering things and because like the two cultures of fire and earth were suddenly able to make metals. Suddenly, there's a lot more metal in the world. Like that, you can bring in these concepts. Even some people didn't like that, but still, all modernity can be brought into the game. It's just purely of the methodology by which you
execution.
There are some lines I would have, honestly, even on that though, right?
I would
like
think it would be lazy to bring.
I mean, yes, technically, if they brought in cell phones, I don't really know how you would do that.
Yeah, it would be.
You
You could make anything work, but I think that the story might suffer for it.
The further you stretch, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
There's a point where you go like, I don't know the
It
author
has
that can
to.
pull some
It
of this
has
shit.
to work. Like that's why world building is so important. Like all of these concepts and all of these ideas have to fit and work inside the already established world, right? If it doesn't, then it breaks immersion. It does. Doesn't matter what anyone says. Like people who love stories and are immersed into these stories and the characters and play these games and get immersed for entertainment value like I do, those things matter. Like what you do and the concepts that you introduce and the ideas that you introduce, the execution of how you do that within inside the framework of the world that already exists matters.
Yeah, I get another part of it is how much does it mirror? So for like Dorian, the issue for them wasn't like, and they have a religion that homosexuality is wrong, and that's where it came. That's not what they're doing. Their position is no, we're literally breeding humans to make stronger mages. And the fact that you're gay means we can't it's harder for us to get you to breed, and that was the concept. If they suddenly said, actually, he just wanted to get married, and there's a supreme Trent-to-Vinter court that is preventing them, and they have a case coming up, that would be the issue, the way of addressing it. Goes, Jesus Christ. But what they within the concept of mages going, yeah, I get why you'd want to breed them. I get why that they're not using the real world's issues and just inserting them into the world with different names.
Yeah, they're using Thetis.
Okay. Before we get on too long, $2 from Keto Burrito. Hot take: Dragon Age hasn't been good since Origins. I liked
Keto,
to.
I fucking loved you, and you were the chosen one, and you just fucked it all up.
Inquisition was good, but my criticism
Origins
of Inquisition was it was
Origins
too long.
is the best, yes.
It was too long.
So is Dragon Age like the topic for tonight?
Can I ask a quick question, Zetsui, real quick, based on what you just said?
Well, I want to get the new people in as well.
It's just finishing what he just said.
Go ahead.
So if given what you said, it was woven into the narrative such that, as Mando has mentioned, like gender identity is at best tied specifically to your job role in Kunari culture, right? What if it served that because of this, non-binary identification, Tosh was not falling into her societal role, and it created a conflict with her culture? Like, wouldn't that fit within the narrative very well?
Sure.
Yes.
It could, in the same sense that you could technically do all these things. I'm not saying I know the answer yet. I'm going based on what I'm reading here. The way they're approaching it doesn't. If I'm betting that it's probably gonna get pretty preachy. In the same sense, she could be an athlete, and she could technically really want to work in swimming, and the transgender thing could technically fall with it, and you could technically weave that in the narrative. But I'm going, really? We just had Leah. It really comes across like you're just talking about Leah Thomas. It's purely about the method by which you do it. They could.
One of them is far more
fingers
likely,
crossed.
right?
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm not having
it would
an
even make
absolute.
sense. It would even make sense if Tosh, right, because of how the Kunari culture works, she wants to be a warrior. She wants to be a warrior. She wants the societal role title of warrior, but she can't have it. And so her story arc is her basically dealing with that. And this is just like one dialogue that we see in that story arc. Then it would make sense. It wouldn't break.
Right, because as a non-binary, she couldn't, because she has to be a man, and they would be okay with that, but they wouldn't be okay with the middle ground. Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
So is the contention that there's a culture in this game that a trans person isn't jiving with?
Well, it's not even about being trans. It's not
Did
even
we really
about
come
being
on not
trans.
knowing the topic or the
Well,
We're just spin on the same thing.
Wick just posted that they were doing call-ins, and I was like, I'm going to do call-ins, and I come in and y'all talk about Dragon Age. Like, I came in the middle of y'all's conversation, so.
Yeah, we're talking about Dragon Age and how there's a
I just came.
possibility. You just came.
Call-in show still.
Okay. Let's hear from the new people. Old people, shut up. New people. We're gonna go with Generic and Cluck. Go ahead, Generic.
I was just gonna say, I really thought you guys were reading into a lot for just having still images with like a single line of dialogue. I haven't seen anything, and I was real curious to see what Wicked's seen, because I've been looking, and I am bad at navigating Twitter apparently. But then you mentioned Korra in the world building, and I want to say I have a lot of problems with Korra's world building. First and foremost, there were too many lightning benders. It should not have been that common.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to defend. I'm just saying that like they did make an attempt to go, why is there metal all of a sudden? Well, because the fire and the earthbender thing, like that's all I was going for. I'm not trying to defend it. I wasn't a big fan of the whole turning into the 1950s America either.
I mean, I was fine with that. I would have been better with like 1920s.
Yeah,
but
that's not even my biggest issue with Korra. My biggest issue is that they totally went away from the Avatar arc type story. Like the whole purpose of the journey of the Avatar is.
No, you don't want to get me started ranting on this.
That was because they were originally only there for one season. It was really supposed to be even shorter than they did in the first season. And so like I can't really blame them to go like, we were expected to do one season with like 10 episodes. So yeah, it's pretty self-contained. Sorry about that. Like they didn't give us 4 seasons.
And then the scheduling issues compounded that, along with Nick being Nick.
And they didn't have and my guess is they didn't have a plan for after it. So suddenly it's like one of those things where they said,
no plan.
Avatar, they had a plan. Thus, it's
Avatar had a clear
you're going,
plan.
okay, we need a second season. Well, we didn't have one. Come up with one. You got about 2 weeks. Good.
Regardless, still the story
I'm the
issues.
Avatar, you got to deal with it. I'm the Avatar. You got to deal with it. Next. It's like, bitch. The reason why Aang's story is so amazing is because he goes on this journey, and all of his struggles have to do with him learning all of these fucking different bending styles.
Had 10 episodes, man.
They did.
Only supposed to have like 10 episodes. They can't.
I understand. I understand.
I'm gonna take the reins back from. I didn't see Korra.
Oh, I have no opinion on this, so y'all can go ahead and keep talking.
You should watch Korra to know that they did you dirty if you're an Avatar fan.
Avatar was good, but I didn't write it. Like it wasn't something.
The Last Airbender was
super.
Good. Yeah.
Yes. Wait, no. Avatar: The Last Airbender was good. Yeah. The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan was hot garbage.
That was an abomination. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that. Like we don't talk about Batman 3. Like Batman 3, Spider-Man 3.
You're telling me the Inuit weren't white? Liar.
Like my entire criticism, and I think the majority of like reasonable people's criticism in regards to like things that are bad in the entertainment genre has nothing to do with something being woke. It's just bad writing, right? Bad
Do you guys
directing,
remember the
bad
Lord of the
production.
Rings, Rings of Power, that whole controversy?
Yes.
A lot of people.
That's what happens
the problem.
when you have.
Yeah, the problem
Does
with it.
Fuck not get to introduce himself before we keep.
No, y'all are fine. Keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The problem here, okay, and I see you, Keto Burrito. I'll read that in a second. But there were and are legitimate criticisms of Rings of Power. It's,
Yes.
Writing style, its casting, its story, and its overarching flow. However, a lot of those criticisms get buried when they're just like, but there's black people in it. Like, okay,
Yeah.
so the problem
Surface level criticism.
I have with it, right, from the casting perspective, was a real simple one. I think that any Lord of the Rings fan can agree with me here. The women didn't have beards. The dwarven women didn't have beards. And that is entirely against the lore of dwarves. Like, it just...
Oh
I don't
my
care if
God.
they're black.
You went there.
Give them
You went there.
beards, right?
I know they don't
Yeah.
shave.
Yeah, that they braid them all pretty.
Shave
and
with
stuff,
what?
right?
They should introduce Gillette. Totally.
Yeah,
It'll
shave
fit.
shave
Just
with
give them
what?
some
They're
lore.
dwarves. Yeah,
Do,
shave with what? They're
do any of you
dwarves.
play
They live
Warhammer?
underground.
Do any
Yes.
of you play Warhammer? Did y'all
Yes.
hear about the Amazon controversy where they were trying to bring Warhammer to the big screen, but they wanted women to be a part of the Space Marines?
Custodes, yeah.
What
Like,
do you
there's
think?
already women
Hold on, is
inside
that
of
why they
Warhammer,
canceled
as
it?
far as I know. Well, I don't think it's canceled. I think it's like
It's in
I don't think it's
development hell right now, isn't it?
canceled. I think they're like delaying it because Henry Cavill is you know how he is.
Yes.
And I really appreciate him for this. Is he wants things to be accurate to the source material.
Yes.
That's
He
what he
speaks
wants.
for the
And if-
fans.
yeah.
And
if it's not
the
accurate to the
holdup-
source material,
and to be
then
clear, I don't
he's
know.
gonna-
I don't know as much about this. So, Liberal Club, you can educate me here, or anyone who knows about it. Is the holdup the fact that someone wants to put female Space Marines in?
Well, Amazon apparently has a rule that you have to have like 50% representation of female characters in their shows.
Is that a
And
real rule? Hold on.
This is just a thing that my roommate was talking
feels
about.
unrealistic.
He's
like
a
show's casting should be based on characters. What?
But yeah, so they wanted to make some of the Space Marines female, and Henry Cavill's like, well, you have a whole clan of just females. If you want female characters, we could just
You got the
incorporate
Sisters of
them.
Battle, Sisters of
Yeah.
Silence. Like, you have some badass female chapters that do badass things without being custodes, without being Astartes. They're just badass women doing
Okay, so
badass
this
shit
is
alongside.
I just looked at it up. So this is from Amazon. Okay, and I'm just gonna quote it. Each film or series with a creative team of 3 or more people in above-the-line roles, directors, writers, producers, should ideally include a minimum of 30% women and 30% members of an underrepresented racial/ethnic group. This aspirational goal will increase to 50% by 2024. And this is a quote from 2021. So there
that doesn't
is
make sense to me.
some evidence that this is a thing.
So here's why that doesn't make sense to me. If that aspirational goal increases to 50%, does that mean 50% will be women and 50% will be underrepresented? That's 100%.
I think
I
they
don't
can
understand
double
the,
count.
The
I think
math
they
ain't
can double
mathin'.
count, right?
All right, fair enough.
You can count as a woman
if-
and a black person or something, right? I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's kind of wild, but it also does say immediately thereafter, casting actors whose identity aligns with the character they will be playing. So, in the case of the Warhammer series, where the vast majority of characters would be male, they would want to cast characters whose identity aligns with that.
Well, you wouldn't even have to have the vast majority of characters to be male, unless you're like completely adapting one of their books line by line. Because you could have a unique story in the Warhammer universe with equal.
You could have the Imperial Guard. You don't even have
Yeah.
to tell a story about Astartes or or freaking, you know
But
what I
if
mean?
you
Like
if you did want a
Marines. You don't have
story
to tell a
about a
story
Space
in
Marine
regards to
chapter,
Space
it would be
Marines.
hard.
Space
to have women
Marines
in
can
it.
be like
Yeah,
the
operating within
appearance
the-
trump card that you use during like a war with the Imperial Guard, right?
I see what you mean, Wick. Mando had to shoehorn Trump in right there. That's crazy.
Mando.
What?
So if
What?
it came down to it, though, if it came down to it, and Amazon was like, "We got to do this, female space marines, or we're not going to do the show," would you prefer them to just not
Don't
do the show?
I would prefer them to just not do the show if that's going to be your focus. If that is the most important thing to you when creating entertainment, when creating art, then it's probably going to be bad. It's probably going to be bad. I would say consistently, right? Consistently when individuals create art and entertainment, especially in the last 5 fucking years, and their focus isn't actually on creating something that's artistic, creating something that's meaningful, creating something that's interesting or something that's cool, when it's all about representation and anything that, right?
Well,
when it's all about representation, it usually sucks.
I don't think that like following that rule necessarily means that that's going to be their main focus, though.
Yeah.
I didn't say that it was their main focus. I said if that is their main focus.
Yeah, if that is their main
that
focus,
is their
I
main
agree,
focus,
but
then it's probably going to be bad. If the most important aspect of you creating some piece of art or some piece of entertainment for other individuals' enjoyment is we got to put women in.
So if Henry Cavill was like, "Listen, I know, but otherwise we wouldn't have been able to do this,
But
and
we
my
need to
main
have
focus is to
female
create a good story."
because, right? Like if the most important focus of Amazon when creating like a Warhammer live action series was we got to have female custodians.
Well, that wouldn't be
If
their
that
main
was
focus.
their-
That's just like a thing that's like a roadblock right now.
That's not the writer's main focus or the people involved in the show's main focus. That's Amazon's main focus.
Yeah.
What if like
But
they
that's
write
what
a
I'm saying.
good
That's
show
what I'm
and what if they write a good show and
what I'm
Amazon is like, we have to shoehorn in like women for our numbers?
Well,
Like,
then it would
does
probably
that take
be
away
bad.
from the show?
It does because it
to be
breaks the
clear-
immersion. It's going to
To be
break
clear,
the immersion, right?
The best approach on looking at this is that this is just not a good show for Amazon, because for Amazon, shows are a means towards building out their brand, and their brand is not about brutality and space rape and slavery. That's why you wouldn't want the Lifetime channel to make Warhammer 40K. You certainly don't want Amazon.
That
which
would be
has one foot
that
in
would be an
Lifetime.
interesting show, honestly.
Yeah,
if
you
Lifetime,
probably
look,
want,
I will, I
like,
promise you,
HBO
if Lifetime
or
came out
Showtime.
with a Warhammer show, a 40K show, I would watch it just for sheer curiosity.
I definitely would.
Right? I would
be the
absolutely check it out.
Best love story in the Warhammer universe. Two dudes just alone at war, and they bond.
I mean, you would watch it on the Lifetime channel for the same reason that
the
you would
trenches
like
of
pull up a
Armageddon.
live leak from a Chinese factory. You want to see the train wreck. You want to see the blood and guts.
Yeah.
And the blood and guts on the table for that instance wouldn't be the ones that you were looking for, but at least you get something. It's the spectacle. I think
it would
that's
all
the way that
depend
you
on
have
the
to.
angle that they take in the storytelling, right? Because like there are more humans
No,
than
they've
there
got
are
standards.
space marines.
They've
No,
got-
I
they've
know
got
they
every
have standards,
channel.
right?
I know, but I'm saying every channel and every director is going to impose their will and their idea on what makes a good film onto the property, which is actually why properties should be given to people that are befit that property. In the same way you can respect Cavill. Cavill's an actor. He's in a very specific place where he can say, I'm only going to take and I'm only going to star in things that feel like, because he has to build himself up as an actor and his reputation as an actor. He doesn't want to be Tom Hanks. He doesn't want
I think
to be.
he's the producer of this series, though. I think they brought him in as a producer and a consultant, and now
I'm not claiming
he's
otherwise.
consulting.
I'm saying
Okay,
though,
okay,
but
I'm
he
sorry.
is an actor, so he's a family name. He has a face. He has a brand that is around that. That is not what Amazon. No one thinks of Amazon. They're like,
Yeah, that's
yes,
true.
the kings of
That's true.
entertainment. They're like, put the slop
I'm
on.
being informed, and I'm pretty sure this is true. I'll check, that Cavill actually is in charge of the GW Warhammer stuff on Amazon. Like he's been.
Yeah, he's the producer.
Yeah,
I'm
he's-
talking about his brand. I'm not saying whether
so
he's
it's-
acting in the
but
thing.
in terms of his role within the Amazon and Warhammer, he's a producer, not just an actor here. So.
No, I'm saying him as a person. So like in the same way that John Cena is building a brand that's broader and he has to like build his brand around what he's trying to do. He wanted to become an actor eventually, and not just any actor, like a very flexible actor. After being a wrestler, he can't go in and be the suck it. He can't be that guy. He can be.
Why can't he? That's literally like you can't see me. He could have totally got away with doing that.
$2 from Keto Burrito. Second hot take: Mass Effect is the best BioWare game. No,
I mean
that's wrong. But
oh, wait a minute. Second was Degeneration X. Get it straight.
Star Wars KOTOR.
Yeah.
KOTOR.
KOTOR is number 1. I would put Jade Empire number 2, and then Mass Effect number 3.
Knights of the Old Republic for
Mass
those of you who
Effect
don't
and
know.
Dragon Age, I can totally understand. Because
Mass
like
Effect
Dragon
is
Age
good,
does something
to be clear.
that Mass Effect does not do. Like, especially in Origins. Like, the world is literally narrated around how you build your character, like what race you choose, what background you choose, et cetera, and the entire world changes based on that. Mass Effect doesn't do that, but that's the only thing that's different between.
Thank you
those
for
two
the 5
genres.
gift subs. That's way. I really appreciate you. And gang, on the YouTube side, we do have a goal, and it's got to be $5. I'm sorry, I'm getting a lot of $2 super chats, but those don't count to the goal. $5 a super chat. If we get to the goal, right, we're gonna get a Halloween costume stream. Okay, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
I will dress.
Wick is gonna dress up like a hot dog.
But I gotta
We
get
get
there.
to pick the costume.
What's the goal?
15 $5 super chats by the time the stream ends.
15 $5 super chats.
Yes.
But what about like one chat? What about one super chat that equals 15 $5 super chats?
I actually don't know. I'm not sure exactly how the system works.
See?
But tell
He's
you what,
cucking the
if
content,
we can
guys.
make that much, I will count it, right? I will count it as fulfilling the goal. If someone just wants to plop all the money down, that's perfectly fine.
Has anyone done any Halloweeny things yet?
It's not Halloween.
Shared, yeah, definitely got some candy, ate some candy, threw some fucking Nerf balls.
Yeah, like, and as Jenny Burns says, that's only $75, and it won't just be me on stream, okay? We're going to have Sad Kit Kat. She's going to be there. Julie, she's great. You guys haven't seen her in a while, but she's coming for this one. And we got Fairy Queen will be there, trying to get Harmony Ginger in on this, and we're trying to get a few more, right? I've reached out Mooncake and some others. We'll try to pull them on. I'll dress them up, and it'll be fun. So we want to make that goal.
Be real,
Another
guys.
new count for $5. You've chosen to encourage Tosh by focusing on benefits of a multicultural background. Yeah, that isn't preachy at all, Para. Thank you for the $5 from the
What? Wait, what?
a
Bro, don't talk
line
shit about
apparently
Tom.
in the
She's
game.
the coolest fucking character in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Hold on. Okay. Reset. Tuna Chip, I'm going to pass the ball to you because you had something you wanted to say when you came in. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, I think that a lot of people, Parallax, it's not even a hate. A lot of people want to be slow to respond to the woke thing by looking at the snapshots and seeing the dialogue. They want to be like, well, it's not woke, and people always exaggerate the woke thing and this, that, and the other. I don't think that woke is the right frame, but I do think that this is part of a greater systemic issue, which is we are more lowbrow. We have lower expectations. The writing is worse. The way that we talk about world building has become worse. And there was a period of time where fantasy was the wokest genre, if you thought about it that way, but you didn't have to think about it that way because the stories were in such a way that they were compelling in a broader and deeper way and could be interpreted in many different ways. Even if you're writing about like what it means to be a trans person or what it means to be gay inside of a non-accepting family or something, like fantasy was built off of these concepts just by exploring them with more sophisticated and more compelling stories than, by the way, miraculously, this world where there's magic and there are wizards and warlocks and dwarves, people socially police the way that one another talk about sex and gender. That is weird. That is not normal. We can admit that the way that we talk about gender has existed for a long time. It exists in this world, but the way we talk about gender is very unique to the peace and the trust that we have in our culture, in our civilization, where enforcing pronouns is like, we're fortunate to be able to do that. You used to be like,
Socrates
used to call you the
super
N-word.
chat, not super chat. Socrates gave me money on Twitch actually to say fantasy is woke now, quote unquote, always has been, and yeah, kind of. But again,
woke is getting
exactly
dumber.
what Tuna said.
No, you
This
guys
is the
are
actual
everything
sad
woke.
thing. Being wokeness is being called wokeness now because wokeness is dumber. It is more deadpan. It is more exact. It is not as analogical. It doesn't have world building to it.
Couldn't you make the
It's
argument
sad.
that, like,
Surface level
could we-
bullshit. It's
Wait, could
surface
you
level
make the
bullshit.
Woke.
hold on, give it to Cluck. Go
couldn't
ahead.
you make the argument that just like storytelling in most media, woke or not, is probably getting pretty bad these days?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is my
So
position.
this is
I
probably
don't-
detached from wokeness. Like, this problem is probably detached from wokeness.
Okay,
Exactly.
the best
Well,
example.
I think they could be connected. I think Tuna, like, I'm not going to discredit somebody's opinion if they think it's woke, if there's actual valid criticisms on why it's woke behind it, right?
Before
Like,
you
just
go-
saying something is woke
before you go,
because it's
Tuna,
woke.
Here's my opinion. Then I'm gonna let Tuna go because I know Tuna has to say. But here's the thing. I think that the switch, right? Because there has been a switch, right? It's been a gradual progression, and I think there became a time when it almost like a flip was a switch was flipped on. I think that the issue is how many producers, how many writers, and how many directors have decided to use media entertainment as a form of advocacy.
Yes.
That's
yes,
the problem.
I would agree.
It stopped being entertainment and became advocacy. And that sucks.
Yeah. Like, it's individuals who are put in positions where they're supposed to be creative, and they're not creative. And the only way that they can be interesting or create something is to focus on race, sexuality, gender, and ideology. And no one actually cares about any of
Tuna,
that
go
shit.
ahead,
We just
Tuna,
wanna
Tuna,
see
Tuna.
cool characters
Mando?
do cool shit. Go ahead.
Mando, I think that you're close. Me and you are really close together on this, but the problem I would say is that fantasy has always been about nationality, sex, gender, race. I mean, the thing is, there used to be a bit more elegance to it. There used to be stronger conversations had. But what's happening is that the amount of time that people spend building a world is shorter because there's more competition. The market is incentivized. Either you need to make a
That's actually a good
spin-off
point.
of something, or to make a world that is totally unique is way too time consuming. The closest we've gotten to a game that has like a very, very unique world compared to other things in its genre is probably Disco Elysium. Extremely woke, extremely anti-woke. It is also just like a mixture of like, what if film noir was in like post collapse Soviet like block? That's not even, that's pulling from history. It's pulling from actual real world politics. But instead of saying like, you've seen the really bad copies of Disco Elysium, people who cared about Disco Elysium and have followed that shit, people keep trying to rip off the system. They don't have the writing. They don't have the understanding of political
It
history.
only works because of the writing. The writing carries that
Yes.
shit so hard.
And the
It has
thought,
to-
Yeah.
the world building, it takes forever.
It's all about the intent. It's all about the intent. Like, if you're in,
So where was the insult against me there that you buried, Tuna?
It's not an insult. I'm not trying to make an insult.
Well, no. I guess I haven't disagreed with what you're saying, so I don't know.
No.
what
So
the
when
pushback was.
my pushback against you is that I think it's not even a pushback. I'm saying that I think that the heart is in the right place for a lot of people who are like, oh, we have to wait and we have to push against this narrative that this game is woke because woke is this silly word that keeps getting thrown out as an insult for any video game that doesn't have like a white man protagonist who's brave, like, or something. There's a silly, petty use of woke.
That's not me, though.
And-
to be clear, I'm not.
I
Saying
know
that.
that's not you. I know that's not
Yeah,
you.
he didn't.
But
Okay,
when,
he didn't
just
say
making
it.
sure
I'm
we're
saying
on the
that
same
you
page there. That's crazy.
you almost want to, like, I think a lot of people, they want to fill the gap in the conversation and defend the side that has the fewest smart people on that side. Nobody wants to play this game unless they are already enfranchised in that world, or they are, for some reason, they've, like, why would you play this? This is my opinion. Why would you play this when Baldur's Gate 3 is out? Why would you play this when Baldur's Gate 3 is out? There's no reason to do it unless you've already played the shit out of Baldur's Gate 3 and you just want your favorite
that's the
genre.
lie.
It's gonna be
I wanna know how it ends.
it's gonna be a disappointment, though.
I've actually got to go.
I just think it's
Generic.
okay.
Any final words before you have to dip?
Yes, I have a lot to say, but I got to go do things. with my-
Okay. Pick one
just
thing
wanna-
and say it.
I think woke is, like Mando said, a really shallow, like, criticism. I think you guys, I think everyone in general is just, like, throwing woke, DEI, all these buzzwords out there as a criticism without really saying anything. And yes, there are bad games. There are good games. A game having these elements does not automatically make it bad. But people see those elements and then just assume it's bad, which is frustrating because then you have.
Well, thank you
It's
for
just frustrating.
coming on.
So,
Before anyone else goes, I'm gonna read some money chats. Okay, money. Okay,
And me.
$2 from Keto Burrito. Wick is the gatekeeper of the poor. This counts as $6. Well, thank you for the other $2 chat. I appreciate you. Zetzway for $5. I would have done those gift subs by super chats if I had known those wouldn't count. Sorry, man. Another new account for $5.
Sucks to suck.
The scene encouraging Emmerich and Tosh to find common ground isn't dumbed down, preachy cringe at all, Para. Not beating anyone over the head at all. Thank you for the $5.
I haven't seen the scene, fuck ass. I said if you present me with counter evidence, I will agree.
Fair enough. On when it comes to, like, the concept of woke, I think that a lot of people, again, I agree, it's lazy. It's if you decide to just call something woke, it should be the start of the conversation. But in too many instances, it's the end. They're like, oh, it's woke. Oh, okay, what does that mean? What
It's woke. That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would go a little further.
But let me finish, right? But I think that too many will decide. Here's the frustrating thing. There are a lot of people who want to be allies, okay, or want to support their advocacy for their causes, and so they will defend bad writing and bad games because they want to be allies, and it's become this culture war stuff. And I'm not saying that it's their fault, because obviously there's some grifters who are making it into culture war stuff. But come on, like, games as advocacy.
Like, we can acknowledge
is bad.
that while acknowledging the
it's
other.
bad. Entertainment as advocacy makes the entertainment worse. It just does.
Well,
I would argue that I think that you're kind of honing in on something really important in two ways. There's a double meaning to what you're saying when you say woke is lazy. I also think that's actually the problem, is that, like, and you know, we've been dancing around it talking about the writing being not great, but, like, wokeness in general, when it's so obviously visible, is in fact lazy, right? Like, it's really lazy when I just see something that is screaming wokeness to me. And I guess that's why when I don't see it, when a screenshot comes out of an individual line and I see people melting down, I tend to push back because I can see the laziness. It's very clear, and it's very off-putting. I don't want to watch a very lazy presentation. If I want to go play a game about, like, a queer character that's developed or developing and it has nuance and presentation, I'm going to go play a game like Life is Strange, right? Like, there are games out there with fantastically written gay characters. Shut up, Tuna.
Yeah,
and like, I don't know that I don't know that, like, if I play the Veilguard and I feel that they're preaching at me about Tasha's identity, I probably will find it lazy. That screenshot just doesn't meet that bar.
to that point, it's like it really, really does not seem like woke is the problem here, because you guys keep going back to, oh, there's plenty of games with good gay characters. There's probably stories out there that where the gayness of the character is the central point, and it's still a good story because it was well written. But if you read this line, non-binary, I just said, and I'm going to use they instead of she from now on. That's like not how those conversations go down. It's very bad writing. Bad writing is the issue,
Yeah, that's
not
what
the
we've all been
wokeness.
saying. You're missing that. We've all been saying.
Oh no,
laziness
but
is bad
y'all are
writing
blaming
is
this on
lazy.
wokeness. It's just
No,
bad writing.
no,
we're not.
No,
we're
it's
not.
bad writing. Yeah,
we're
what?
having an actual discussion about what makes it bad and is it woke?
Guys, this is 6 men have shown up to the Klan rally wearing hoods, trying to intercept it. It's not like, guess what? We're all black men trying to show. It's like, we're all FBI agents. None of us actually want to bomb the Capitol. Ah, shucks, guys. I guess the debate can't happen. But you could still have a conversation. I don't think that Okay, I want a question. This was the actual deeper question about wokeness in depth, which is wokeness inherently poisonous to depth? Does wokeness kill depth? Or
no,
is there something
else?
else?
Okay, I hate to be the guy, but just to confirm, right? Just to clarify, when you say wokeness, you mean advocacy of certain ideologies that are put into entertainment. Is
So
that
when
what
I
you
say
mean?
does woke kill games? Does woke make stories worse? What I'm saying is, does using art as a way to affect political change instead of using political facts as an inspiration for art?
Here's my answer. Not necessarily, but it has a higher propensity to end up being trash or end up being subpar because of the focus.
What about like
right?
anti-woke?
That's the same thing. It's hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
Yes, same thing. Like I said in my example with the Sword of Truth series. My problems with that series was that we didn't have woke and anti-woke when he was writing it, right? At least not in the common lexicon. But he was so anti-communist, and it came across in his writing how anti-socialist, anti-communist, anti-all that he was, that it destroyed the story.
It takes you out of the story.
It destroyed the story for me. I even agree with his points. I'm anti-communist, right? But I'm like, brother, come on. Like, it's just it makes the story worse. And I think that good writing and good mechanics can overcome some of that, right? But I think by adding in preachiness or advocacy to your entertainment, it does have a high risk of making it worse. I want to hear Zetsway, what Zetsway thinks of that. And I want to go around because I want everyone to answer your question. It's a good question, Tuna.
Yeah,
so
I
go
agree.
ahead.
It's like saying, do you think can you inherently put on shoes? The answer is yes. It's purely a method of saying, are you forcing it in or are you not? It's about the way you did it. We have trans characters in Dragon Age and they've been done correctly. You've had arguments where one person's trying to settle 2 disputes and they're done correctly. The dialogue we're seeing doesn't appear to be in the same vein. And so maybe it's an isolated case, but it seems like it's just, if it's continuing, then it's like going to be annoying. It'd be like for the anti-woke. Imagine if like suddenly the Quinari were coming across the southern border of Ferelden and changing their culture and taking the jobs. And the only way to stop them was by building a wall. And you're like, I guess you could build the lore into that there's a blight or something, but it's obvious what you're saying. And the problem is, if I can see what you're saying in the real world, that's the part where it breaks the immersion.
Agreed.
Yeah.
No, I don't disagree. I don't think that like inherently, I don't think there's any way that wokeness or really even any other topic that you choose to focus on could like just make sure that your story is low quality. I think that when you focus on a what's the word I'm looking for? When you focus on an agenda or a concept more than the actual story is where the story starts to suffer, right? Like I think the story should be the priority. If your aim is to write a story that drives an agenda, you're already sacrificing story. And so the more you implement agenda and the more you prioritize agenda, the more story you're going to sacrifice.
Agreed.
I agree.
God damn, I agree.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go ahead, please. No. I want to hear from the room, and then I've got a thought on some things.
My thought on it is, again, I'm not necessarily an individual who believes that wokeness or the lack thereof has to do with anything being good or bad. I think there are ways where you can kind of come to a reasonable conclusion that may be like those concepts may be a focus based on like how a story is written, what characters are at the forefront, what's important about these characters, right? What makes these characters interesting, et cetera, et cetera. I think that in those environments, especially like the entertainment, in the entertainment field where creativity is a must, in a lot of these environments where creativity is supposed to be the focus, we're learning that it's not, right? These environments don't foster an environment where you're allowed to be creative, right? It's all about focusing on things that most people who enjoy entertainment don't really care about, right? Like Ahsoka's not a great character because she's a female, right? Mace Windu isn't cool because he's black, and neither is Blade or Spawn.
That's not true.
Right?
Blade is cool because he's black.
Shut up, Par. Stop trolling.
Some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill. Don't come
Listen.
at me with that.
Listen. He was the first.
The Asari are not cool. The Asari
Van
are not cool
Helsing
because of their
versus
sexuality.
Blade. Van Helsing versus Blade. Blade is cooler, and we know it's the skin.
I do not confirm.
All I'm saying is it's not lost on me that a Daywalker is not white.
Okay.
He's got the skin to resist the sun.
Life as a now. Hold on. Another new account. Hold on. Another new account for $5 says this. So just to confirm, Para hasn't played the game, but he's spurging at Wick for saying the game isn't preachy when it clearly is.
None of you have
Another
played the game.
new account is like my strongest defender here, and I appreciate the $5.
He's retarded. The game's not out.
And just gang, we are like out of the 15 goal, we're at 7. It says 6, but 7 because I'm combining some super chats at the $2 here. So
listen, if I make it mad enough,
and $2 from another new account to also say what is a playthrough on YouTube, Parallax. Is this shit open panel? Yes, Socrates, jump backstage. Come on in. But I think Life as a Noun asked a question that no, stop.
Hold on, I need to reply to that. It's to me.
I don't care because I want to make an interesting show.
Shut up.
Okay, I want to make an interesting show, and I think this question by Life as a Noun is an interesting question, and I want to hear Tuna's answer and everyone's answer to this because it's an interesting question. Life as a Noun asks this. If someone makes a game specifically in order to give a person a glimpse into what it's like to be a minority of a population, is that woke?
No.
It can be,
but
it doesn't have to be. There are ways to do it in a way that is woke, and ways that are do it that isn't.
No. Okay, we are glossing over terms here. Because this is the most important disagreement on what woke means that people ever have.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people think that woke means that the entire point of the media is deliver message. They kind of mean woke equals propaganda, or woke is when a person is selfishly making art to deliver message. They have an end in mind. I think woke's a little bit different than that. I think that woke is more often it's that a person feels compelled and believes that that's what art is supposed to be, and it corrupts their ability to be creative.
Yes.
I think that it's usually actually about an internal problem of mentality. When I say that someone is a woke developer, I think that most people go into making art, developing games, writing stories, wanting to be creative, and then along the path there, they come to believe that politics, affecting the world, having that as this thing that you target towards is the thing that will get you there, whether or not it's another person thinks it's woke or it's just like that's what is in the heart of creative good people. That is what I think of when I think of woke. I don't think that a person who goes in to make something and they're like, you know what, I really want I want to make a story that captures what it means to be black in America. That's not woke to me, specifically because that was actually the creative spark. But if they were like, I'm making a video game, I'm going to make a main character, and then they're like, how am I going to get people to play this game? I gotta make the character black. I gotta do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if that's what's gonna get people to hear my message.
Of, like, yeah. I would just add to that like having minority characters and all of that, like, isn't what is woke to me. It's when it's done specifically to check a box, right? Like if you're only doing it for inclusive representation and it doesn't have anything to
Well,
do with telling
Amazon
a good story
has a quota, and we gotta put another woman in.
Yeah,
so
like,
might
if
as
you're
well
only
just
doing
throw
it
her
to
in
check a
there,
box
right?
and-
The definition
Exactly.
the definition of woke is being aware of the injustices for minorities. Like that's the historic
You know that
definition.
it's more than that.
The
But what
definition
now?
of woke is incredibly
we all know it
These
is
days,
more
the
than that.
definition of the definition of woke is whatever a conservative doesn't like. It's woke. But I guess
Yeah.
you guys are running off of something different here. That's neither of those two things.
Of course, we're talking about the accusation of wokeness. It's like, what does Tucker Carlson mean when he says woke?
He's called environmental. He's called the environmental policies woke.
Okay, I want to hear from the new people. Hold on.
What does he mean? No.
Wait,
no.
Anything he doesn't like is woke.
Donos.
Okay, I want to hear from the new people. I want to give some space to Waldo and to Socrates. It's been a while, Socrates.
Can I make a quick point just to,
Is it quick?
to cap that out? It is quick.
Okay.
When you are having
Bullshit, Wick.
no, genuine. When you're having a conversation with somebody about the thing that they said, you have to define the words as they define them, because you're trying to actually figure out what they think. So when you're talking about what does the right wing mean when they say that games are going woke, you have to define woke in that conversation as they are using it. They are not talking about being aware of racial prejudice inside of America.
So do you think
You
that
mean
Tucker
blacks
Carlson
and
would?
gays, buddy?
Do you think that Tucker Carlson would call something like Mr. Bertram woke?
Okay, no, actually,
I don't know what the fuck that is.
yeah, I don't know what that is, but
None
here,
of
let
that
me
even
define it,
matters.
and then I want to hear from the new people, because I think that Tuna
I'm
Tuna
so mad.
almost hit it. Tuna almost hit it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
If
if
you
I
were
can-
making a game,
Right.
real quick, if
Go
you were
ahead.
making a game, and you want to, man, I really think it would be interesting story to tell a story about someone who is a minority in their culture and how that affects his life or their life, and how that leads to an interesting conflict of some sort, right? And we can discuss
Oh,
it.
you
We
mean
can discuss
like-
some of the themes around it, and we can explore some of those themes in the game.
Yeah.
Great.
Like Avatar A.
But
The Last Airbender.
but if you were saying, I want people to understand what it's like to be a minority in America, and so I'm going to make a game in order to convince them that minorities in America have a really bad time, and to expose what minorities in America are going through. I think that is woke. Does that make? Do you understand the difference? Does everyone get the difference here?
Yeah, I get it. I get what you're saying. I can understand. I can understand your thought process.
I understand the difference.
Do you?
So one game is showing what it's like being a minority, and the other game is like being a minority sucks, and I want to show people what it's like.
Specifically in a real world place to get a real world outcome, to get a
Yeah.
Anyway, I want to hear
Wait,
from
so it's just-
I want to hear from
There's
Waldo.
two different ways to
Yeah.
tell. There's two different stories that are being told. One isn't necessarily being told in some sort of modern day society where there's a name, right? It could be the first story could be told in
Amanda,
any setting.
I
and
love
the
you.
second story.
But
What's
we
that?
got to get the new people in. There's a lot
Oh,
of
I'm
people
sorry.
here. It's okay.
My bad. All right.
We're gonna go to
And I'm
Waldo, and then we're
replying.
gonna go to Socrates. Go ahead.
Oh, hi. How you doing? My name's Waldo. I think all plots require conflict, and in conflict, you will have two sides. That's polarization. Everything is political these days, which means you're going to associate with one side or the other. That leads to politics. That leads to a polarization. And that is why a lot of people, and yes, if you're making a woke show, it will be very easy to point at the two sides of the racial problems, like you're talking about, Wick. Here's the problems with the racists. Here's the problems with the people who are pushing that racism. That's very easy. It's very cheap, I suppose. It's a thing we all recognize and we all see, and it's easier to explain to an audience what about the racism that the black people suffered in the 60s rather than it would be for wood elves versus high elves. Fewer people are aware of that. You can have a really complicated and difficult racist dynamic between wood elves and high elves, but the people don't recognize it, and they don't have the time to butt into it.
Forbid a dark
to learn
elf.
it. I know, dark elves. Good Lord.
That would be a great story. Like dark elves versus like high elves.
Maybe a dark elf who went
American
against his culture, which was
Dark elf society in the Forgotten Realms is dope, and
I agree. It really is.
Erden is the fucking man.
Well, you're not gonna sell 1 million billion tickets to that.
Waldo, do you? It feels like you. Okay. I think most people watching Lord of the Rings are picking up on subtext while they're watching it. Do you disagree with that statement?
I think they are, sure.
And the ones that are... Well, I just want to go further into the discourse before we derail by talking about whether or not orcs are black.
I said bad. I said, are they bad? Check the VOD, son. I said bad.
I know. I'm not claiming you didn't. I'm just saying I know the topic.
Well, no, they
I
are
know
black.
where it goes.
That I already knew.
Okay, you know what I mean by black, though. So we're moving forward. I'm saying because everybody wants to talk about Lord of the Rings and say, oh, it's racist, it's colonialist, it's not redeeming of. But when you're watching it at surface level, you get a certain thing out of it, and then the people that go one layer deeper, they get another thing and another layer deeper, and then you're able to satisfy different levels of curiosity with integrity. When you make something that appeals only to like one or two levels of interpretation, you're not making it more accessible. I think that most good, well-written, entertaining, well-paced movies are accessible. It's not like, oh, I couldn't pick up on the subtext, so I decided to... That's not what dumb people say. Dumb people say yummy explosion, slop.
Dumb people go watch more Transformers movies still.
Right. They watch the simpler stuff.
I think that they watch literally everything. Like they watch complicated things simply.
Oh, I would appreciate that. And then they go to YouTube, and someone tells them why they should hate it.
$5 from Zetsway. $5 from Zetsway to say I agree with mustachioed Chris Reagan. Thank you for the $5.
That's true. Thanks. That's the new one. But it tracks.
I also
Socrates, right?
Simply,
and then I can reply to the fucking yeah.
No, we're gonna go to Socrates right now.
Yeah, after him.
All right. Thank you. So I mean, what Tuna was saying, that it's like there's something people are identifying as woke. This is the issue. This is the really frustrating thing with engaging with, honestly, most consumers in general, especially right-wing consumers of media, is that there's so little media literacy and like some kind of real personal analysis. Like they're not going to therapy, so we have to psychoanalyze what the fuck they're trying to say. They're just like, I didn't like this thing. It sucks now, and it's woke, and I hate it. And we're like, okay, let's try to find some words to express what it is that you're trying to say. What didn't you like about it? Like, you have to sit them down and do a survey and try to extract what the fuck it is they're even talking about. So let's take just like refocus this and look at something that's like probably the wokest thing ever. The movie Get Out. Director Jordan Peele. There's like no woker, like just cut and dry. This is like probably the archetype of what you would imagine if you were to put together a woke film. It's like being a minority in America and like being around white people is literally a horror movie. That's the premise. Is that being around family as a black dude who's like dating their white daughter is a fucking horror movie.
But it's also fetishized at the same time, right? Like it's both things.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Exactly. Right? But people don't experience that movie, to my knowledge, as woke. Because first of all, it's really well written. it's a more affluent family, so maybe people can kind of distance themselves and say, oh, this is like a white liberal family that's pretending to be nice to black people or whatever, but
It
really
doesn't look like me.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I think really what it is people are uncomfortable with being called out in a stupid way. So having somebody direct a criticism at you that is like not really like kind of nonsensical, not eloquent, doesn't actually tell you anything that you can use, that you feel like you could as a caricature write yourself of what you think,
Well,
liberal
I
people
also
think, whatever, right?
the thing with Get Out, right, is it was, and I think what makes it not receive almost any criticism from these circles is that it was a story in and of itself. It didn't rely on other franchises. It didn't rely on other IPs. It didn't rely on other things. It was a thing on its own, which again, I think that most people are fine with, right? If the problem becomes is when you have a franchise, you have an IP, you have a established lore in a world that is one way, and then suddenly, right, it becomes the focus changes.
Okay,
and that is a problem.
So looking at Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So Lord of the Rings, the original. I know we're just joking like are orcs black, but like I think that was to some degree Tolkien's worldview, not specifically like black people, but this idea that there's like this European imperial great society that's kind of crumbling with weaker rulers, and there's hordes of external people who are more barbaric coming in to invade. I think that is genuinely, like, scholars have looked at this. That was generally his more kind of reactionary worldview. And so it has these heroes of, whatever this perspective is. And then you look at like the Amazon, not writing, not really true to the source material, but it's also specifically in a really dumb way, maybe trying to go against whatever that reactionary viewpoint was saying. And it's saying like, oh no, the heroes who are elves and hobbits and whatever, some of them are like black or whatever. It's a really reductive attempt to try to shift anything political, because it's not using the structure of the story itself. I think maybe somebody said something like this. It's taking our world politics instead of using the politics that are within that world itself. So it's like lazy writing that isn't transforming anything in terms of how we understand it. It's not using the sci-fi or fantasy.
I think the problem with the Amazon show is that it was just poorly written. If you just take elves and make them black, and you had a good written story, nobody would care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So
like what if it's a half human, half elf, right? Like,
it doesn't matter. Like you
that
could have
would work.
a full elf that's
That would
black, and if the story's well written, nobody would care.
So my contention is not that like there's some like woke director somewhere and they're like, no, please let me do this thing, and they're like, oh, okay, and then they just like don't write it well or whatever. I think that the woke thing is like a thing that studios do as like an audience testing thing. They did some surveys, they see that their audience has these demographics, and they think that they can sell an inferior product by putting in some filler. And they think if we have some kind of rah around some current political topic, and we seem like the good guys, and people can feel good about it, then they can sell some more shit. Okay, this is what it is.
That I would agree.
Starbucks.
Woke.
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Starbucks costs a lot for some coffee, and it's not like the best coffee in the world. But what do? 1% of the money that you spend on that coffee goes to make sure that the kids who are picking the coffee beans get a really good life, and it's environmental, and it's it's all these good things. And so maybe it costs a little bit more, but you get to be a good person consuming this media.
Get paid.
Yeah. And so it's filler that you put into the products, that you can have worse products, but it makes you feel good that you're a good person consuming them. And everyone wants to feel
Yeah.
good when they're lying on the couch, half a
Yeah,
bag of
because
Doritos
they're
on them.
For 1
You
week
know what
a
would make
year,
people feel
because
really
it's-
good
I call
is
the
it
only
green.
reason that
super
people feel
chatting to
good-
me $5 so we can hit my goal, right? We're at 8 out of 15. Just a few more dollars, gang. A few more super chats of $5. And we can have that Halloween costume stream. That would make you feel real
I feel
good.
like-
Anyway.
Yeah, for example, like if you super chatted that I hadn't played a fucking game that's not out, you idiot.
Oh my god.
So I think that
I
meant.
think that the only reason,
Write it in your
I
book
think
of
that the
grudges,
only-
Parallax, and just you can hash it out
Like,
in
if
chat or
someone
something.
I just
Right.
want to reply when someone talks shit to me, Wick. Be a good moderator.
I think
Well,
that,
go ahead, Howard. Go ahead.
I think that there may be an issue of what he was saying, where people are using like diversity or minority representation in place of like to sell an inferior product. But
Monetization.
Mhm.
yeah, but that in of
Yep.
itself isn't a problem with like wokeness and diversity. That's a problem with like
No.
laziness.
We're saying I think some people would claim that process of using the fundamental belief of diversity, equality, and inclusion for monetization use so they can sell a product is woke.
I think it's called
That's what I think.
Sure, but you can
as well.
Yeah.
Rainbow
can
capitalism,
monetize.
Is that Wombat? Oh shit, I know
You
that.
can monetize
I am a
diversity.
wombat. I identify as a wombat, and
can-
to honor my Australian heritage, my pronouns are
Aye.
and him.
$5 from Zetsway. Gotta get back to work, but there's more towards costume stream. Thank you for the $5 and thank you. Do you have any last words you want to say before you go, Zetsway?
Nope. Just no. Have a good one, everyone. Have fun. Bye.
Hey, have a great day.
Later,
And
Rudy.
$2 from another new account. Para can't look up a YouTube playthrough skill issue.
Because they
Thank
don't
you for
exist, you
$2.
fucking idiot. The game's not out.
The game is
Yeah, it's
out.
kinda
Like
out.
how it is out. Like
No, it's
people
not.
are
It comes
playing
out in
the
2
game
days.
right
It comes
now.
out on the 31st.
People
I
in
would
the
know. I already bought it.
And
Somebody's got it.
and
People-
there is promo that is being made by
individuals in
creators.
access
advertising.
media.
No,
Wiki's
there's
already
no
full.
playthroughs. There are no
Individuals
playthroughs of
in
the game.
access media.
There are
Well,
no
they can't
playthroughs
release
of
any
the game.
playthroughs.
Okay,
There
okay,
are no
enough.
Release any
Enough.
playthroughs yet because of NBA.
Enough.
But there are
This isn't the
individuals who have
Parallax
given
Grudges
copies of this
stream.
game and have played through it.
This isn't the Parallax Grudges stream, okay? If you have a problem with what he said, you can take it up with him another day. We are here to talk about the
Yeah, why don't you
bigger
schedule
issue.
that? Let's fucking do it.
If he wants to
Let's
come
go.
on, I don't.
No, I mean anyone. Fucking free for all.
Parallax versus the world.
You would like that, wouldn't you? You
Figure
would
it out
like
next
that, wouldn't
week.
you? It'd be
But
like
we'll figure
20
that out later.
versus
I want to
Parallax.
discuss the actual topic at hand, which is
Yeah,
entertainment, media, video games, movies, etc., and how they interact with politics and how they interact with wokeness, and whether that improves or hinders or is neutral to the products themselves. And I think that, like,
Yeah.
again, I stand by. I have not yet heard a compelling reason to change my stance on this.
Well,
Is that-
wait. Mhm. Well,
that-
I want to hear it.
So here's an.
I want,
oh, sorry.
can we hear
I want to hear
Wick?
the stance. Yeah.
Okay.
Let Wick do like the full sentence of his stance so that you can actually rebut it.
Go and then.
Okay. Yes, you can't bribe me to kick Parallax $50 and I'll kick him right now. Okay. Let's see. But my stance on this, sorry, I got distracted with money. My stance on this is very
bullshit.
simple, right?
It's not very free speech.
No, it's
No, it
$50
costs
speech,
$50.
right? Like it's literally not free. It's $50.
freedom
But I gotta
isn't
make
free,
some money.
Para.
But
The
here's the
way
deal.
that Twitch shoehorned this clear Jewish stereotype into this stream. Oh my god.
Okay,
Going.
$5 from Zetsway to say, I'm pretty sure that guy thought Parallax was a guy who has never played the Dragon Age series, not specifically Veilguard. Maybe.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, no.
But here's the thing. My stance here, and I haven't heard a compelling argument against it, is that many studios, whether they be game, movie, or authorships, are trying to use their entertainment and products as a form of advocacy. I think a lot of them mean well, but I think it makes the products worse. And that's my stance here.
Okay, so what I was unfortunately interrupting you with. Let me. That's one question, and I think that's compelling. There's another piece of that maybe to add on, which is what's good for us. And I don't mean good for us in terms of like, oh, you know, this show really fucking sucks, but it's like hammering us on the face to not be racist in some dumb way. Right? Okay, like actually like useful. So let's go back. Let's go back a little bit. You know, back to the future. Star Trek. Let's say Next Generation. I grew up on. It's an unbelievably woke show. It's fully automated,
everywhere.
gay space communism. Right? There's no money.
Agreed.
There's no classes. Everybody has whatever they need to survive. And there's episodes tackling things like climate change, like, yes, racism, like non-binary people in society, societal roles, all of this stuff. It does so in a transformative way that looks at what the future can be and a hopeful thing for the future. So it's not like beating you over the head. Oh, you know, we're so evil, everything's doomed. It's saying things can be better. And it's something that lots of people grew up on and said, hey, like the world can be a better place. We can be good to each other. That's a really positive thing. And by the way, it made the product better. So that's my personal.
So I would suggest if you agree with the morals, you won't notice them.
My response to that would be simply that while that was something that Star Wars, I'm sorry, not Star Wars, Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Yes, my bad.
Millions of fans cry out.
Yeah, the Next Generation was the best Star Trek, to be clear. Deep Space Nine might be a close second, but
Deep Space Nine a little bit more, but yeah.
Fair enough. Right, we can debate on that later.
Next stream.
Yeah,
More of the feminist agenda.
But there is
oh shit.
The way they did it, and the reason it was compelling was because it made sense within the concept of the theme of the show and the theme of the
universe
story, right? It also, right, my least favorite episodes were the more preachy ones, right? Do you guys remember Star Trek 2? I think it was 2. The one where they went back in time to save the whales.
That's the best one. Are you kidding me?
What are you talking about?
Is that
Let
one
me guess,
or
you like
two?
Khan more than that?
Wrath of Khan.
No, the one where they save the whales is the best, and that was original series.
Was
That's a very Socrates take. The one where they save the whales.
No, that was that felt
original series.
That felt worse than the ones when Wrath of Khan, right? Am I thinking of the right Star Trek? Star Trek 4. Is that Star Trek 4?
Nuclear whistles.
Wrong generation of Star Trek, but
Star Trek 4.
Nuclear whistles. Yeah, they've got
Nuclear
the
whistles.
It's so cool.
I don't know.
Spent a lot of time.
It felt worse than the story as a whole because it felt forced. Does that make sense?
I think that.
Well, and
I think
campy
that people.
at that point.
I think
Very
that people.
campy.
I think that people online spend a lot of time pointing out these quote unquote woke things that are bad. But like if you think about like I'm sure there's so much media out there that would be advocating for something and still good. I'm thinking of like Teen Titans episode where they tackled racism using Starfire and that was a good episode.
Why are we talking about
my
children's
6-year-old
shows?
loved it.
Yeah.
Wait, was the Teen Titans show not? Did you not like the Teen Titans original show?
I didn't watch it. I'm not a child.
I'm sorry. This is.
I was a child. Wait, how old are y'all?
How old are you?
I'm
How old are you?
41 years old.
Yeah, it was on when we were kids.
11-1.
You're a
What are you
decade
talking
younger
about?
than him.
That's what I'm saying.
Looks like fucking Merlin right now, and you think he was watching Teen Titans as a kid? Come on.
Teen Titans was on when we were kids. It came out.
To be
when we
fair,
were
Merlin
kids.
ages
No,
backwards.
Is Teen
Rick was
Titan?
watching X-Men.
Wick's Teen Titan is named Mario Lopez. Okay,
X-Men,
that's who was a teen when he
X-Men.
was a teen.
X-Men was a very woke show, and
Five more dollars, and we got
Yeah,
5
but it
minutes
wasn't
on my
good.
goal
It
here.
wasn't bad.
We
It's
got
all
5 minutes on my
being
goal
woke.
here, so get your super chats in now. That's why for $5 says we don't like shoehorning a foot into a shoe that doesn't fit. Being met with here's an example of a foot that fit in a shoe over and over and over. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so Socrates. So here's my thoughts on what you said about TNG, because one of the things I want to come in with is purely stating that science fiction was woke before woke was a thing. They did challenge. They took the opportunity to change one thing about society or technology, some law had changed, and then they would talk.
I hate
about what
to
happened,
interrupt
right?
you, Rabid.
But, okay,
Have
yep.
you read old sci-fi?
Yeah.
Literally, a lot of the stories are women were only allowed into. Look, there's a reason that NASA, when they were wanting to have female astronauts, that the wives of the astronauts currently were so against it. is because sci-fi back in that day, I'm talking like 50s, 60s, 70s, right, had made it a whole trope that women would go up into space only because to be basically sex slaves, right? To be
Wait,
toys.
okay, Wick. So if you look at not TNG but original series,
I'm talking
Uhura-
60s,
wait,
70s, 50s, right?
Wait, Uhura was I think one of, if not the first, like, if not even black women but black people who were like in a TV show. She's on the bridge of the Star Trek. She's not the secretary, whatever. She's an officer on the bridge. Her and Shatner had the first interracial kiss. That's like, at the time, interracial relationships were
Sounds pretty
considered
woke to me.
taboo thing. It's pretty like.
But
So
the
so
old
that's-
school
that's also
sci-fi
not-
was
not
very
just in the
conservative.
universe,
Yeah.
but in America.
Yep. Okay, let me finish my point. Because that's true, but there.
How many you got, Wick? What are you at for your total? You got 3 minutes left.
I'm
It's
looking.
like I wasn't even talking.
Yeah,
I need three
true.
more $5
Trying
super
to make
chats.
this man make money.
3 more
How
$5
dare I?
super chats. Or actually, no, only 2 more because I'm counting the one that Keto Burrito gave me, right? All the $6 he gave me and the $2, right? So 2 more. So just $10 more. If we can get that, we get it. And $5 from Zetsway to say generic super chat text. $5 from another new account to say here's $5 for the hell of it. So Para, if playthroughs aren't out yet, you're wrong, by the way. How do you know the game isn't preachy when you're spurging? Thank you for the $5. But again, this isn't the Book of Grudges Parallax stream. We can set something up, and you guys can. You know what? If you want to argue with him in super chats, by all means, keep doing it. Right? But yeah.
At $2 to $5 a pop.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rabbit.
So-
Finish.
Thank you. So the next generation wasn't good because it had those social messages in it. It was good writing that had social messages in it, and because of that, the end product was of value for cultural change because of that. But to go in, that was the mission of the author, of the original creator himself. He's been that, like you said, from the start, from the original series, right? Someone who would go in and say, go to C.S. Lewis's Narnia and say, hey, let's make this into like an atheist kind of series, right? It'd be like, no, that dude was religious to the core and it's baked right into the core of the story. And you just could not honor the author's intentions without changing it dramatically, or without changing it dramatically to accomplish what your goal was as someone coming later. And last thing, I think when you look at these stories and you look at these changes, those are drastic changes, but even the minor ones in service of some sort of woke or activist agenda. If I was an editor and I read, okay, well, Sally kisses Susie, and then like that's the last time anything happens between them, and I would go back to the author and I'd be like, why did Sally kiss Susie? If she was like, well, because I really wanted to have a lesbian character in my story and I only had the one beat to demonstrate that, and so I did that, I'd be like, no, that's gone, because it's not in service of the story. It's going to create a false expectation in the reader that something's going to happen later, and it's not good storytelling, and it would be gone.
It's just bad writing. But that's not the wokeness. Isn't the problem there? It's the bad writing. Like
wokeness is what pushes the bad writing in that case, right?
So just
I don't think so.
just tackling those in order. So when it comes to Star Trek, I think we can fine tune what you said. I basically agree with you, but with Star Trek, it wasn't the wokeness wasn't put in there because it was like, oh, our audience wants this. It was put in there because that was the worldview, and it was a form of advocacy. It was trying to push a worldview, but it was good writing. But it wasn't added to be filler. It wasn't added to be something that would make up for lack of other qualities.
100%. It was baked in from the start, and that's why it did conflict with the storytelling.
Yeah, but if you
added
do
to
something
the
like
story, it wasn't just inserted in
Also-
there for the sake of monetary value and representation. That's the point.
I might take a huge L here, right? Because I'm not like a super Trekkie. Okay, so maybe I'll take a huge L here.
that is a huge L.
Fair enough.
You start with a W so that you can stomach the L in a moment.
Agreed. Started with a W.
But here's the deal. Okay, I think that Star Trek wasn't written in order to push these things. It was written because they wanted to tell a story in space about the various conflicts that might arise and the exploration and how that would work. I don't think they decided we want to make sure that we combat racism and sexism in our story.
Which is the opposite of what
Well,
Wombat just said, by the way.
It's been social
you're talking about
commentary from the
conflict.
very start.
Yeah.
Conflict has two sides, and that makes polarization. And the society that we live in right now is overly polarized, and we are looking for which side is which. When the minute somebody walked into Star Wars Episode 8, they were looking for the woke messages. They were looking for the polarization. They were looking for the right-wing message. They were looking for the left-wing message. They were looking for all of this stuff that they wanted. And if you couldn't find it yourself because you didn't pick up on the subtext, you just went to YouTube and had a guy with a funny accent scream the hate, tell you what to hate.
Very Avatar. So I mean,
Dev, thank you, Dev. Short Fat Otaku, thank you for the Raiders on YouTube. I appreciate you. We have just reached our YouTube goal, gang. Let me read you these super chats because I want to celebrate this. We have reached our Halloween extravaganza goal, so we will be having a costume stream. Halloween, hooray. $5 from Parallax. My statement was that we don't know if it's preachy, and they aren't out. I looked for them. $5 from Zetsway to say, I carry you all to the costume stream. And then $5 more from Zetsway says, I want to win this right by the little YouTube bow and arrow target thing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, viewers. Gang, we are doing a show about wokeness, apparently. Dragon Age Veilguard is really bad. The writings and screenshots I've seen are really bad.
We don't know
some
that.
people, us Parallax, take issue with my statement here, but that's what we're talking about. Welcome in. Come on, let's go. Okay, Tuna.
Parallax, from even the previews that we had months ago, you had good warning that this was going to be slop. It's not about is it woke or not. We know that it's fucking Marvel core. He's right behind me, isn't he? Style fucking writing. it's trying to be funny and jovial, and people were trying to defend it by saying, well, if, they're trying to make it funny. They're trying to make put the brand in a different direction. You don't have to ask the question of whether it's woke to defend whether or not it has bad writing. It has bad writing. Everything that you've seen has been bad. Nothing you've seen's been good. That's enough. You would think that they'd put their best foot forward if they had any best foot to put forward.
If the narrative that people, and I'm not even like, you could be right, but if the narrative that people are trying to push is that the writing is bad, wouldn't they only like put out shit that's bad? Like, why would they put out like?
But we're
examples
using
of the good writing.
Yeah, but we're using like things like the promo team of the game have put out, right? Tuna here is referring to the previews that the game developers have showcased, right?
The 22 minutes of gameplay that they signed off for people to see. Is slop.
And the studio themselves
I don't think it was that bad.
Literally come out and announced what the story is going to be focused on. And it's just not what I thought was going to be the focus of the story. And me and Wick have had this conversation like last month, like months ago when they started releasing trailers. Like, Wick was like, does this really give you a Dragon Age vibe? It doesn't feel like Dragon Age to me. Like, we were already talking about how not interesting it looked months ago.
What's the focus of the story?
Dragon Age should be about categorizing something as to either kill or have sex with, and then pursuing that with all due haste.
Or both. You
In a
gotta have
fantasy-
you
in a
gotta
dark
you
fantasy
can't limit your
environment.
options.
Yes,
okay?
but order matters.
Order definitely matters.
But here's the deal, right? Like, I think that I haven't played the game, right? I haven't sat down with it, and the mechanics could be great. I don't know. But when we talk about an RPG, the story will affect my enjoyment of the game. You can have a mechanically tight, interesting game, but the story is slop, and in an RPG, that's a deal breaker.
It matters.
That's a deal breaker for me.
Because it's all about the narrative. And this is BioWare. Their reputation, or what their reputation was based on, was them telling very good narrative-driven stories. That's what their studio is known for. Storytelling. So like in the trailers and based on their interviews and what they basically presented to the public to promote their game.
Let me
None of
just
that
ask you,
stuff interested.
Socrates. Yeah, let me just ask you, Socrates. Have you played Dragon Age? The other previous
So
games?
I got Dragon Age 2, and I had the same issue that I had with like Neverwinter Nights, where I just don't like that weird middle ground between turn-based and real-time like combat, where it's like semi.
Fair.
It's like the dice
that
rolls
makes
on like a
sense.
little timer, and I could not. I could
Well,
not get
then I
into
can't
that
ask
shit.
my follow-up question, unfortunately, right?
Ask it.
Well, my question would have been, if you've played the other games and you've seen the trailers for Veilguard, do these look like they should be the same series, the same game? And I think anyone looking at this, no. Veilguard is an entirely different direction, not just in art style, but also apparently in narrative and in how they tell the story. And that's a problem for me.
Why is that a problem for you, Wick? So this is okay. Let me give a little
because
context.
I want to play Dragon Age, not something else.
Fable.
Okay,
It looks like
this is
Fable,
my
to be honest.
this is my issue with this entire. Okay, to me, this is like maybe this sounds harsh, but this feels like an entitled consumer problem. You know what game
saying he doesn't like it, so
recently?
he's not gonna play it.
You
It's
know
not-
what game I've been playing recently
Yeah.
that's really fucking good? You know what game? Diablo 2. Diablo 2 is really fucking good. You know what other game I've been playing recently that's really good? Oblivion. You know what other game I've been playing recently that's really fucking good? Fallout New Vegas. These games still exist in the same way that
not a good
all
thing.
original Star Wars
It's
movies
not doing
still
what you
exist.
think it's doing for you. That's proving their
Yeah,
point.
it's not. Yeah.
So
Like-
basically, you're saying good games don't come out. Got it.
Great.
No. That's a good.
I'm saying
That's a great
this-
set of circumstances
No.
for us to be in. Is to have to rely on 15-year-old games.
Parallax.
If you want to play Dragon Age, play the Dragon Age that you like. If you don't want them to go in a new direction, you're the one who's making these games suck. Because if you want to play the same game again, more, I mean,
that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make
Okay,
any
no,
sense. You're
I
in a
see what he's saying. I
consumer
see what he's saying,
market,
but I
and
have a
target
counter.
audience.
Hold on. I see what he's saying, but my response to that would be, yes, exploring new concepts within that setting, exploring new
they're
directions
done well,
within that
obviously.
set. Yeah, this is just assuming they're done well within that setting. I'm fine with. My problem with this is the presentation of the setting fundamentally
Yes.
differs from core concepts that I expect out of a Dragon Age game. Like you said, right? If suddenly, Zetsway was here earlier, and I think he made this perfectly clear, right? If suddenly you're playing, the new Dragon Age comes out, and it's set in 1950s style, totally not America, where you have businessmen and there's this turf war within corporations and things like that, and you just put Dragon Age on it, and you expect me to enjoy that?
Sounds like some cringe steampunk bullshit.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't anything like I want. If it's going to be Dragon Age, it needs to check certain boxes. Gritty, dark fantasy. And Veilguard just doesn't from the presentation. But go ahead.
I agree with
It would
that.
literally be called a
concept.
bait and switch if it was any other product.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Let's be
Fable-
honest.
Advertisement. How can you be bait and switched if you've only seen the ad and you haven't? Do you see what I'm saying? How could that be a bait and switch?
Because you have like
Are
three
you-
or
are you
four
saying-
installments
are you-
in the franchise
Yeah.
that follow a specific structure, that
They
have
follow
a specific
structure,
Yeah.
a specific narrative, a specific tone.
history.
What do you
everything.
mean? Of
So are you saying
course, you can make a
Does the
determination on whether or not something appeals to you
Mhm.
based on trailers.
Does the
They
existence of a
released-
non-binary
they released
character
multiple
change
trailers.
this?
They released multiple trailers, right? Also, we know how this game came into development. It took them 10 years, and the direction of the game changed 3 or 4 times because the director changed 3 or 4 times. Dragon
What is
Age, the Veilguard, was originally supposed to be called the Dreadwolf, and it changed 3 times, and what we have now is what we have.
I thought the
Always take
concept was
consideration.
wokeness. Like none of this has anything to do with wokeness.
Weird.
What
The
are you talking
argument
about, man?
is
The argument-
that wokeness from the game developers caused a lot of the issues that I personally have with the game. Now, whether that's true or not is
Yeah.
something we're exploring within this topic, right? But that is the topic at hand. $5 from Haunting in Dev's Waiting Room to say, I think Veilguard could be fixed with enough of a concentrated modding effort. Eventually, it will become Space Marine 2, solving the core issue.
So
I don't
wokeness
know
caused
about
the art
Space
style
Marine 2.
change.
Tuna, go
That
ahead.
was, that was one of your complaints. It was the art
Yes,
style
art
change.
style is a
Wokeness
huge
caused that?
deal for me, yes. How you
Yeah,
present
did
things
wokeness
matters.
cause that?
Whoa,
Yes.
Can
Yes,
I-
they wanted to take away a lot of the gritty, edgy nature of it and paint it in a more calm tone setting. Right? I can't tell you that it was the only cause of it. Right? But this tends to be a trend within a certain art direction style. We see this in the new Dungeons and Dragons as well, with a lot of the new art receiving criticism for its more homey tone, which is less gritty, less hard fantasy. But go ahead, Tuna, give us what you got.
Okay. I think that more and more, games especially, but movies as well, we are not friendly to the idea of treating a built world like it's a world. And we talk about like a future release as if it doesn't shit on the previous world. But I do think that there is like a diegetic quality to a well-established world, this like RPG thing. You have to kind of treat it like it's a world. And when a new chapter of that world comes out and it has facts inside of that sequel that debase the world building of the previous builds, it does actually make the previous game worse. It changes the way that people engage. It means that people who are fans of, let's say, you could go fans of Fallout. If we had a Fallout that came out tomorrow and it just turns out somewhere in the world there is a sort of like Wakanda style paradise where everybody has beautiful, like great technology and beautiful grass, and they're all black and it seems shoehorned in, people would have reason to be like, this just doesn't fit the vibe. It doesn't fit the aesthetic. It makes the rest of the game seem silly.
Honestly, maybe they had some.
It sounds cool, but it seems antithetical to the concept that there was a nuclear war.
Sure.
And it seems shoehorned. So it changes pivotal understandings of the previous games that makes returning to them and thinking of the world in general less enjoyable, less realistic, less encouraging of deep reading. And this is what I think actually causes the stupid woke conversation, because I do think accusing things of being bad because they're woke, it's an accusation that is guilty of itself. It is this idea that that thing is bad because of its politics. Your argument is bad because of its politics. It's the idea that politics is the thing that we're supposed to be, that's the register we're supposed to engage with. You are, as someone said before, watching YouTube videos trying to figure out what the hidden politics of the movie you saw are. People are talking about whether or not Daisy in the new Mario is like wearing a hijab that's been colored pink or something. I'm sorry. That's a retarded conversation for pigs. You have turned yourself into a pig so that you can have conversation with the other pigs. You just have to ignore all of that shit. Engage, and if something doesn't have depth, throw it to the wolves.
Yeah.
Let go of it.
I got an example. I heard this in a video, and I just wanted to like present it because I actually thought it was hilarious. What if, right, you're playing a Super Mario Brothers game, and we all know Mario is Italian. What if during your playthrough in the Mario game, he just stops and starts talking to you about being a Catholic?
Wait,
it would be out of place, right? About being a Catholic.
Catholic,
Italian, right? About being a Catholic and how important his religion is to him, et cetera, right? What if a modern day Super Mario game that is known for being a platformer, et cetera, puzzles?
Now,
what
would be good?
What if that?
What would be good? What would be good? So that would be if he just like looked at the screen and said, "Mamma mia, I sure feel oppressed by the Protestant world order." That would be. But if he put his hands together,
the Virgin Mary.
The Virgin Mary. If he put his hands together and prayed, and then suddenly all of the water on the screen turned red, That, on the other hand, would be pretty dope.
Dude,
and that would be like,
dude,
oh, he's
what
Catholic.
if,
Well, that's
what
normal.
if he started? What if he started like in the middle of a playthrough? Like you go idle, right? You go idle, and then Mario just drops to his knees and he starts praying to the Mother Mary for a pizza, and then
I don't think that
a
would matter
pizza
at all.
appears.
Are we just trying to be racist against
No,
Italians?
wait a
in this
minute.
stream
Tim,
now?
that
We
actually
decided,
would be
like,
not a big
we're
deal.
gonna make fun of Italians
No, no,
today.
it would-
I don't know.
I want to connect this to the thing before, and I didn't want to dunk too hard, but when someone mentioned Teen Titans, this is the thing that I feel weird about when we talk. So we're talking about Mario, we're talking about Teen Titans. We always talk about these things that are built to be approachable, and the end all be all of the property is supposed to be shallow engagement. You're not supposed to think about the world of Mario. In fact, I'm pretty sure the overall world of Mario is that all of the characters are actors. Something that is revealed inside of the recent Peach game is that everybody is actually acting out the game that you were playing.
It's like a Truman Show.
Yeah, exactly. So in that same way
that we live
though,
in.
and that's like a way of saying, don't think too hard about it. It's not a real world. The real world is like hidden from you, if there is one at all. But when people talk about that and they're like, oh, isn't it great? This is a great place for politics. I just think that that's the worst place for politics, because it's a flattening of politics and consensus. And I don't think it's always wokeness. Sometimes it's vanity. There's a way that people design things sometimes where they explain. So the midichlorians are an example of this. If we're going to use Star Wars, is you explain underlying things that only the most curious people have the patience for, in a way
He means autistic
that the
people, but
curious.
go ahead. Yeah.
Well, you could say autistic, but also you explained it in a way that it's understandable by people that don't have the patience. So you piss off the autists, you have the children bored to fucking tears, and now the world has been all because, well, I can't have people missing the potted plant in the corner of the room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the dramatic music and zoom in on it for like 30 seconds at the end of the scene. That is low content. That's bad for us.
I think
but
a theme
wokeness is contained inside.
I think
of
a theme with a lot of the criticism that quote unquote the woke content gets is the lack of subtlety, right?
Yes.
I think that
for
that
sure.
makes
That's the laziness aspect.
a huge issue, right? The lack of subtlety isn't just a problem with woke stuff as well, though. This transcends that. No one wants to be, and I said this before, preached to in their product
by an idiot.
Preached at. No. People like being preached to sometimes, but preached at.
Semantics,
That's
but I get
a
what
very
you mean.
different thing.
No, I get what you mean.
Well,
and
like
again,
if you look
as
at,
soon as the intended audience for a product feels that they're being preached at, it turns them off. And I think that a lot of the modern products are tending to preach at people, and I think one of the reasons they do that is because it's being directed from above, right? Like people want to insert ideological goals into their media, and that's an issue for me.
Yeah, like that's like when they take Chani and they turn her into a Mary Sue that is mad at Muad'Dib for some reason, like the entire time, all throughout the second one. She winds up so angry. It changes the plot completely, and it's just counter to everything that was happening. Like, it was a beautiful love story. She had her own strength that did not have to arise in this antagonistic view. It's a really tragic story when you get to the end of it, right? And you know what? And just real quick, my biggest criticism of that was what I just said, but my response, and because I think it is based in wokeness and trying to turn her into the next big Mary Sue, my response was, I'm disappointed in what this is doing in the moment. I'm going to wait and see if they put out another movie what the payoff is on this, because if I don't get something good for this, or for like Aaliyah still being in the womb at the end of the second movie, I'm going to be pissed at that point. But I'm already upset that they've messed with me. I'm just willing to give Villeneuve a movie to show why, and if he can't, then the wheels come off this wagon.
Yes. So the term Mary Sue is not, I think, being applied there correctly. That's Mary Sue is like someone who can do no wrong and is like just way too good at everything, and everyone likes her.
Yep,
Like
she's
she makes
both Mary
herself
Sue
almost
and
like a
she's super
villain.
antagonistic.
Well,
Ray is
so
Mary Sue.
she's less of a Mary Sue in the movie than she is in the books. In the books, she's a Sayadina. She's like a critical person. She's like the daughter of the biggest leader of the Fremen, whatever. But the reason that Villeneuve did that is because he wants to point out for people who may not be getting it that this is a fucked up story, and Paul Muad'Dib is the worst thing that's ever happened to the Fremen. So
Is he though?
yes, or that's the point of the book. Yeah, I mean, I've read the first two
He
books
saves
through
humanity.
the third. Sure, but the worst thing
I've
for the
read
Fremen.
every book right to the end.
But the worst thing for the Fremen. That's the point. Maybe you disagree, death of the author. That's fine, right? But that's the point of the story, is that you should be very wary of charismatic leaders. So while there's all this music swelling, oh my God, we're going to paradise, wee! Villeneuve is saying, hey, there's this person who will not be listened to. That's part of the story, but for the audience to understand, there's another perspective to this, that things are actually really fucked up. And it's really understandable that people react extremely negatively to that. Maybe there's some good reasons, because maybe he fucked up some of the things that were good about her in the original of the way that she reacted. But there's also some really bad reasons that people don't like it when everyone is excited, everyone is being led to paradise, we're going on a jihad, this is awesome, and someone is like, no, this is really bad. This is awful. They're like, hey, we're having a good time. Why are you trying to fuck with us? Nobody likes that. But sometimes they don't like it because they're actually like pieces of shit.
So book 2, there's something to what you say, because book 2, he specifically comes out and says that the whole point is to deconstruct Paul into and to make the criticisms that you're making now. But Villeneuve, in order to try and reinforce that, is completely destroying the storyline and the original intent between Paul and Shannon. And
I think a good example.
I think it was an unnecessary.
I think a better example, right? A better
Maybe,
example of a story where you have the original story, and it's one thing, and then someone wants to really stress politics in it, and it becomes something else. Starship Troopers. Okay, the book Starship Troopers was an interesting discourse, right, on what duty means, concepts of duty, honor, loyalty in some of these
and it's a satire of fascism.
The book was not. The movie was.
The movie was, yeah.
And that's the issue that a lot of people have with the movie, is they took a story that was giving one message, giving one thing, and because they wanted to turn it into their own little pet thing, they decided to make it into a satire of fascism, which, fair enough.
Do people really not like Starship Troopers?
The movie?
I feel like everyone likes that movie. Yeah, the movie.
I think that people tend to like it, and this is why I think that people like it versus, because people will be critical of the read that it is merely a satire of fascism, but it's actually a very, whether you're far right, far left, or in the center, you can like Starship Troopers because it doesn't try to change details of the world in order to fit into that satire. It actually does contain some things inside of it where it's like, yes, we are actually just all going to go extinct if we don't take serious this threat.
It's
we are going to
arguably
die.
pro-fashion or pro-fascist, right? Because it's got Neil Patrick Harris in his like, SS looking whatever, but he's the good. There's never any in-universe like. There's things that are like, oh, this made me the man I am today, and he's missing like 2 legs and an arm, right? And that's kind of like, oh,
I just hated it because it became a teen romance story. Honestly, that's why I hated the movie. Nothing like that's in the book.
Fair.
That's why I hated the movie. I'm not gonna lie. Some of the follow-on movies, if you guys know, there's like more than one Starship Trooper movie. You've never seen the other Starship Trooper movies? Watch it.
Are they actually good?
In a bad way, yeah. They're so bad they're good. It's it really hones in on the campiness, but yes, I enjoyed them, right? But the original movie, I was left disappointed. I was left, I didn't like it at all because I had read the book. I had loved the book. It was a great story, and I went in expecting one thing, and I got something else in it. Ugh.
Can I ask
Yeah, please go
two
ahead.
questions to the class? Do you guys think that an interesting and meaningful story can be written that challenges the reader's morality or sense of morals?
Yes.
Obviously.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. Is a story that does that inherently woke?
No.
No.
I would say yes.
Why?
Really?
Yeah.
Hold on. I'll explain.
you say
Elaborate
that-
on your answer.
okay,
I'm
sorry.
curious as to
Yeah,
why you think
yeah.
it would be inherently woke.
Yeah, because I don't think so.
Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so okay, so first of all, we have to recognize that the way we're using woke here is there's a term for this when a concept becomes so disfigured that it could mean something specific. It might mean almost anything.
Okay, but what paradigm are you speaking from when you say
So,
woke? Which,
so when I'm
instance?
saying that, when I'm saying I'm talking more like OG woke, which is like, hey, you need to be more aware of how the world is in an uncomfortable way than you currently are. That's the kind of original meaning of the term woke.
But even within that meaning, I think you're wrong.
Wake up.
Even
right?
within, even using that.
Yeah, even that sentence
definition
implies that you're forcing someone to see.
Yeah.
Like, there's a huge difference between forcing a moral view on a viewer or a reader versus providing some sort of narrative that challenges their view of morality on their own.
So okay,
so
would you agree?
just real quick, one real quick question.
That.
Do you think Birth of a Nation is a woke movie?
I haven't seen it, but that's the.
Well, okay, Birth of the
white
Nation is
supremacist
famous.
one, right?
It's a famous movie, right?
It's a famously woke movie.
Yeah.
Famously
Is it?
woke. It will,
Just from
it will challenge your morals and concepts.
It says.
I think there's.
It says, you know, as a wasp, you need to stick with your wasps and defend your nation from those Catholics and those blacks. That is
and on a
woke, but
horse.
from a different angle.
Yeah.
And on a horse. But that is what it is. It is a I would call it ham-fisted. You know, my issue with Birth of the Nations, actually, it's a very structuralist. It's
They should have been more
It's a
subtle.
bad story. They tried to force the wokeness into it, and it really.
it
kinda
insists
hamsters
upon
it.
itself.
So
I think there's a huge difference between giving a consumer or a viewer or a reader something that is supposed to be artistic, right? And that art that you give them challenges their sense of morality based on their own perception versus you creating something where there is some hidden message inside the content that tells the viewer or the listener or the reader that they are supposed to think a specific way, right? Your morals are bad and you need to think this way. It's completely different than giving someone a story where their morality is challenged on their own. Like, one seems authentic and one is very preachy.
Well, wait. Okay. Yes. So I think that's like a critical piece of this to look at. So this idea of challenging versus forcing. So
Yes.
one might be, hey, here's a thing that you may not have considered, or like an area of the world that you may not have examined or thought deeply about. You really need to think deeply about this. I'm kind of saying it in a way that sounds like forcing, but that would be more like challenging for you to come up. What are your thoughts about this? Think about this thing. Come to some conclusion. You really need to examine this. Versus, if you don't come to this conclusion, then you're a bad person, right? That would be
Yes.
the other thing.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
like for example, there are people who watched the Avengers Endgame and walked away from that movie with the belief that Thanos was
Yeah.
right.
Thanos was a fucking bitch. Let me just say it. He's like,
I mean,
Thanos did
that's
nothing wrong.
you're probably-
too many people. Let me the number of people by 50%.
Okay,
It's
but here's a
okay.
question.
It's gonna be too many people in 20 years.
Here's
Like, what the fuck is this?
another thing that I've seen, a discourse I've seen recently. You guys familiar? Of course you are. You're all nerds, and most of you are white.
Hey.
Yeah, most of you. I said most. Okay.
I'm a Super Saiyan nerd.
You've
Seen
Correct.
Revelation recently?
You've seen
Don't misidentify.
the Full Metal Alchemist. That's it. Sorry, I was brain farting there.
Yep.
You guys
Yeah,
seen
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Right. The discourse
yeah,
I've
sure.
seen recently is that Scar was right. Are you guys familiar with who Scar is in the story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Scarlett Johansson, is she in this one too?
Oh my God! Shut the fuck up! Whoa.
Thinking?
Do it. Hey, literally, you're talking about weeb shit, and we know your audience. Give a quick summary. Anybody?
So Scar, the Ishvars, I don't know how you say their name, but the oppressed people, right? Scar was like their avenger. He'd go out and he'd try to avenge them and try to get justice for his people. I'm TLDRing it. It's been a while since I've seen the show, but a lot of the people are using like Scar was right because they've come to that conclusion through watching the show. I think Full Metal Alchemist is one of the few animes I enjoy, is because they did explore the concepts of oppression, the concepts of occupation, the concepts of these things, but they present it in such a way where you are not, as a viewer, aren't forced to conclusions in a very hard way, right? And you have very
exactly
reasonable
the
people
opposite to
that
what
can
Attack
come
on Titan
to
did.
different conclusions on whether Scar was a good guy or a bad guy. The story does not tell you this is a good guy or this is a bad guy. The story presents the person, presents their actions, adds context, and you, the viewer, are expected to either identify with or shun him.
You come to your own conclusions instead of the individual making the content telling you what you should think. It's completely different. It's more immersive to do it in the manner that Full Metal Alchemist did, where you just present a character who has a specific morality, specific beliefs, etc., and the content creator doesn't force down your throat or try and change your opinions, right, based on their own.
Yeah,
right,
it's
they're not
totally the
telling
same
you that
as the Lion King with Scar and the hyenas.
Yes.
Different
They're not
Scar.
telling you. They're not telling you that the character is bad or good. They're not telling you that the character is bad or good based on their morality. They're just presenting the character and like the character's decisions and belief structure, and then you come to your own conclusions. I think doing it that way is more immersive versus, this character is bad and this is why, and if you think any other way, you're wrong. Like that's less immersive. That breaks immersion.
Okay, so here's an example that I think kind of challenges this perspective. Who's seen American History X or knows what that is?
Great film.
Raise his
Love
hand.
that movie.
Yeah. Is American
Really
History
great
X,
movie.
is American History X woke? It doesn't. It doesn't give that feeling. It doesn't feel woke.
It depends.
Right? Like I think we would define it this way based on how we're defining things, but because there's only really one perspective that you're supposed to come away with, which is that you should step away from hating other races of people and stuff like that, right? Being a Nazi is
not necessarily based on like your morality. You come to that conclusion based on the main character's reality and how his character develops into changing the way that he thinks about a specific race. That's the difference.
Interesting. So it's all.
Do you
all
disagree, Tuna? Hold on. Tuna's making faces.
But not the viewer.
Tuna's making faces.
I mean, that's not my take on it. Obviously, as noticed visually. So no, it's not even just that. I think that you when you're watching American History X, you can come out at the end having absolutely no connection to, because you were never a Nazi and you establish yourself and you firmly identify as being part of it's what people have called morally lucky on this platform, obviously.
Thank God
if
I
you
never had to go through this corrective experience.
I don't think that it's woke, but it's because I don't think that during the movie, the director looked deep into your soul and said, by the way, you might not identify as a Nazi, but you're not really that different from him now, are you? That would be woke. That would be like, I'm going to use Nazism, the symbol of almost universally agreed evil, to talk about how all white people are Nazis or all men are Nazis. That would be woke. That's the it's using the narrative as a means. It's propaganda. That's what I think most people would agree is that you have to have this specific articulate change to your life I am trying to make you change your life in this way. You can watch American History X and just be like, damn, white boy got his teeth stomped on. And you're just having a good time. But you're never going to step away and be like, wait a second, am I actually kind of a sicko? Like, if you think about it, and you can think about it, and you're probably supposed to think, wait a second, am I kind of a sicko for liking watching this Nazi get raped, watching this Nazi get curb stomped? Am I the black man get curb stomped? Like, am I supposed to, like, this? It's a revenge narrative. Am I? But you can easily revel in the revenge, or you can like just completely enjoy the ride and be like, I love watching him get what he had coming.
Yeah, I think the strength of this movie is that it demystifies a lot of it. It really just gives it to you raw and shows almost just what a regular day in the life of a racist would be like at that level, right? And then all of the negative things that happen because of it. And you can look at it and be like, whoa, this isn't like glamorous at all. You know, it's not just head shaving and showering together and killing black people. There's like some consequences to our actions, and it reinforces the mainstream narrative as opposed to challenging anything remotely close to it.
Well, so based on that, here's an updated definition for woke. It doesn't necessarily have to have lots of different ways that you can end up thinking about it. To not be woke, it has to not give you the feeling that it's pointing at you specifically as having a problem that needs to be fixed.
But no, that's. I think that's what we're saying is the reason that it's not woke is because it's open to interpretation.
Well, no, I don't think it isn't. I don't think the conclusion or the messaging is open to interpretation, right? Like if you were,
I would say that it is. I would say that it is. Because they're giving you...
Are we talking about American History X here?
Message.
American History X, if you come away with that thinking, maybe the Nazis are right, you got bigger problems, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Right?
No, okay, listen. Okay, you phrase it that way, and that's like the way that a person could dismissively in a tweet thread. But part of the okay, in my opinion, what you're supposed to take away from American History X, the thing that the 17-year-olds who are drawing like Nazis with hanging from Nazis on fire and saying follow your leader, the thing that they're not willing to take out, that shallow interpretation, but there is something deeper under there. The thing they're not willing to take, it's bad to cheer on watching a person get raped. It's bad to watch someone be tortured and feel good in your soul. And maybe you've got a little bit of a Nazi in you, but most people don't watch that movie and think that. They watch it like Inglourious Bastards. They watch it relatively shallowly.
Well, I don't think it's quite as gleeful as Inglourious Bastards, but I think the core thing is that you don't necessarily have to identify as whatever the kind of corrective thing that's happening. You don't necessarily have to identify as that being targeted toward you.
Well,
People like being scolded. That's the biggest thing. People don't like being nagged. They don't like being scolded. That's ultimately... Is there any other emotion that comes away from it? When you think about something woke?
Well, I think you're supposed to empathize with the younger brother.
Yeah, you're supposed to empathize
with the older. Right?
Yeah. You're supposed to empathize because he is literally following in the footsteps of his brother that he idolized. And his brother has gone through a character arc where he realizes not necessarily that racism is bad, right? Because racism is bad. He sees people how everyone should see them, as humans, as equals, right? He doesn't think he's better than anyone just because of his skin color. He doesn't think he's superior just because of his skin color, right? And it takes him going through his character arc to come to that conclusion.
Okay, gang. We have not gone off topic exactly, but we have run the gamut on the discourse, I think. And I have to eat. I have to do other things.
Food is a crutch.
I know it is. I'm
The body's weak.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
unfortunately addicted to food, and that I have to eat it or I'll die.
Well,
But
I've seen.
here we go. Here we go.
Just to eat
Hey,
culturally
but here we go.
appropriate
We had
food.
dinner together. We had dinner together.
We
It's
did.
not- I'm
Me
not
and
just calling him
Tuna
fat.
karaoke together. Me and Socrates karaoke together. We are
Oh,
we are pals.
wow.
That's
We're
a part of
friends.
a balanced breakfast.
But here's the deal, gang. Here's the deal. Don't know if there's gonna be a show tomorrow, but on Thursday, Halloween stream, we got Mooncake coming confirmed. We got Fairy Tween coming confirmed. We got Julie Sadkick coming confirmed. They're all gonna be dressed up to the nines. It'll be fun. It'll be great. Tune in 6 p.m. Eastern on Halloween night, and then Friday, we're going to have a show on the State of the Race, our final State of the Race show. It'll be
race.
November 1st. Yes, State of the
election.
election.
Which
the
race?
election.
Electoral.
So the
Okay.
presidential
Oh,
race.
boy.
You may have seen it. I don't know. You may know something like we're having a
But
vote.
which race is the most presidential?
We were talking about
The presidential
American
race,
history,
obviously.
so-
But here's the deal.
Shit, you guys
Here's the
are
deal.
just
Okay, let me get my promo. Okay, goddamn.
Do your plug. Do your plug.
6 p.m. Eastern on Friday. We're gonna get a bunch of people on to give their final predictions. Okay, on stream, so we can make fun of them if they're wrong, or we can praise them if they're right. So regardless of who you want to win, we're gonna predict who is going to win on Friday, and we got some hot takes coming in. It'll be fun. Tune in 6 p.m. Eastern. It'll be great. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We do this kind of shit all the time. Today was a relaxed stream. I appreciate you all for coming in. Parallax, Tuna Chip, Waldo was earlier. Zetsway was earlier. Liberal Cluck Cluck was earlier. Rabid Wombat, Socrates, and Mando. Appreciate you all. We're going to say bye. Bye,
Appreciate you.
everyone. And I'll talk to you guys
Love you, Wick.
Thursday. Bye.
Bye bye.